Thank you to Dale Hansen for driving over.
Or did he ride Edward R. Burrow?
I could have. No, actually, I'm like 14 minutes south of Tom's place here, and I'm out of gas, and I forgot to check I really am. I forgot to check my car, so I called the bank and applied for my loan to see if I could fill it up on the way back. But
the retirement's going well.
14. Oh no, hell no, it's not. 14-minute drive, which cost me like $23. So it's great.
Well, you get a water.
There's a war.
He'll offer you a water or a drink or something stronger.
I already got the water. Yeah, you guys were sitting down together having a nice lunch. I got nothing, but that's fine.
Do you have an emu?
I do not have an emu. I was telling Tom when I got out of my car, I thought, what the hell are those things? And I thought to myself, I really did. I thought, that looks like an emu on that insurance company ad, right? And I thought, that looks like an emu, but nobody's got an emu.
I thought you used to.
Never had an emu. I had a wait a minute, what the heck was it? A llama.
That's
and I
it.
had, it was a llama. It was about the weirdest one I've had. I've got 22 animals on our place now. I counted it up this morning just in case you asked, and since you didn't, I'll volunteer it.
Love it.
But we've got 22 animals. We've got miniature burros. Edward R. Burrow's dead, by the way.
Rest in
and
power.
has been for a long time.
Well, we had a poster in the ticket studio in the control room. With you and Ed.
Edward R. Burrow was one of my favorite names, and I name all my animals pretty weird name. My favorite was another favorite I had was we had 2 donkeys, and I named it Luca Donkey, which I thought was pretty cool.
How sad!
But he was so wild, and he didn't train very well, so we got rid of him, much like the Mavericks did. Just like the Mavericks.
Okay. So wait, what was the one? Not a emu, the llama.
The llama.
The llama. Did you
Champagne Tony Llama?
Because I was trying to tell them a story that I thought I remembered from like the early 2000s, back when the annual Dale Hansen party would happen, and there was a llama situation. I thought where you had one llama.
We've only had one at any time. Champagne Tony was the only one.
Oh, okay. Then I'm mixing up stories or something because I thought you had a sick llama and you had to get it a friend, and that made it.
No. That was the Longhorn steers.
The Longhorn steer.
You are. The story's valid, but you're kind of mixing the animals up here a little bit.
Okay.
I always wanted a Longhorn steer, so I did a speech for the Texas Longhorn Association. In Fort Worth, and they said, "What would your fee be?" And I said, "How about a Longhorn?"
No way.
And they said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, just give me a Longhorn. I'll be happy to do it." So they went, "Great." So I drive up to like Pilot Point or something, and the guy said, "I've got one right here, and he's ready to butcher it. He's ready to." I said, "Oh God, no! I'm not. When he butcher it, I'm not going to butcher it." He goes, "Well," he said, "I got one over here, ready to breed." And I said, "No, I don't want to be raising them." And he said, "Dale, you don't really want a bull, do you?" And I said, "No, goodness, no." He said, "Wait a minute. What do you want this for, a yard ornament?" And I said, "Yeah, I want it for a pet." And he said, "Well, you have to have 2." And I went, No, I'm from Iowa. I mean, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I knew a lot of people who did." And I said, "No, you're not going to do the old bait and switch with me. I'm a farm boy. I know." And he said, "No, Dale, I'm telling you, they're herd animals. And if you have just one, he'll go nuts. You really have to have 2. And I went, no, I'm just taking the one. Swear to you a true story. We take the one steer home. His name was Whataburger, by the way. And all he does is hang his head over the fence, looking up at our house, and bawled nonstop. Nonstop. He would not eat, and he would not shut up. 4 or 5 days of this. And I'm starting to get a little concerned. We called the guy back. He said, "Dale, I'm telling you, you got to have 2. They got to have a partner." So I bought another little steer for like $500. Never heard from him again.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm talking 20-some years, actually more than that, 30 years that I've had Longhorn steers. Had as many as 3, but I always have 2 minimum. And we got 3 at one point because we were keeping them long enough where, one would get old and die, and then there'd always be 2, and then I'd replace it. But we brought the other steer into the fold, and I swear to you, I have no idea what a Longhorn steer sounds like because I haven't heard from him in 30 years. And that's probably what started. So I'd bring him up during the party and have him on a leash, just let him around like dogs. People would come up and pet on him and take pictures. And it was a pretty cool. As it turned out, I would argue, a pretty cool yard ornament.
Did you ever consider doing stand-up comedy?
Oh, yeah. Very much so. As Greg, you remember Greg Aiello, don't you, or not?
I know the name. Who is that?
He was the Cowboys public relations director for years when I first came to Dallas, and he ended up working in the NFL offices, and he was Paul Tagliabue's right-hand man. If you ever see a picture of the former NFL commissioner Paul Tagliabue, the good-looking Italian guy to his right is Greg Aiello.
All right.
And he said about me one time in an article, and he called me to apologize, and I told him, no, it was the greatest line I ever heard. He said, Dale Hansen is a fat, bald sportscaster in a frustrated stand-up comic's body. And I thought, yeah, that's me. You know the name Bill Engvall?
I do.
Bill Engvall and I were great friends.
Where do I know that name?
He's a
comedian,
stand-up
right?
comic.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. All right.
He did the tour with Ron White and
Blue Collar Comedy, Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah, Blue Collar Comedy. The Cable Guy, Larry the Cable Guy, and whatever. I knew Bill Engvall in 1981 when he was the MC at the Comedy Corner on Park Lane in Central. And he was just the opening MC. And they paid him like $5 a night and all he could drink, which came to like $480 a night for the shows. And Engvall did that for a year and a half, 2 years. And then one night we're sitting here late at night and he goes, let's go to L.A. You and me, we'll put an act together, we'll go to L.A. And I thought, no, I've got a decent job. I've got a family. I said, I can't do that. He goes, well, I'm going. And then he went on to become pretty big. Mm-hmm. And I then became a sportscaster in Dallas. But yeah, if I could do it all over again, and if I had, but I have so much respect for stand-up comics that I know how hard it is. I would never really try to do it because I just know I can't. But if somebody had a magic wand and said, okay, what do you want to do? It would be Rod Stewart or Bruce Springsteen or Richard Pryor. I mean, that would always be
Rod Stewart because of the stomach pump thing, or
yeah. No, I don't know why. I just love Rod Stewart, and I've
never heard anyone say that phrase in my life. But
no, I've seen Rod Stewart about 7-8 times live, and okay.
Awesome.
mean, I just think he's fabulous. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. But the thing I liked about Rod Stewart was I saw him for the first time about, seriously, 40 years ago. And I was just blown. I didn't really know him. I'm not a music guy. Uh-huh. I'd heard of him, obviously, but I didn't, I got tickets to see him from Greg Aiello, as a matter of fact. And I thought, yeah, I'll go, but what the hell? And I mean, I went nuts.
Yes.
Throw your panties on the stage.
I'm standing up doing the white man dance in the crowd, which I never do. I mean, I was down in Austin last week to see the Springsteen show. And a buddy of mine had seats where we had the rail right in front of us. I said, oh, this is the greatest seat in the house because nobody's going to stand up in front of me. Because I haven't stood up at a concert for like 25 years. Uh-huh. The lovely Mrs. Hansen jumps up and dances her cute ass off, but I don't do anything. But for Rod Stewart, I did. And I just went nuts. And I thought the greatest thing about Rod Stewart is that when he gets old and his voice goes bad, who the hell's going to notice? It's like Bob Dylan. I mean, I love Bob Dylan. And I thought, this guy's got it made because when his voice goes bad, how are you going to tell? But the thing was funny, the deciding factor, and this came up with the Springsteen show. Springsteen gets paid millions of dollars to sing Born in the USA and all the great hits he's got. And once you have a great hit, then you get paid to sing it forever. Mm-hmm. If you're a comedian, and Jerry Seinfeld said this one time in an article I read, this is why it's so much harder to be a comedian. You come up with a great joke. It's got a relatively short shelf life. And if you do a Netflix special, now the joke's done. Mm-hmm. Now you can't go on tour and do that joke anymore. And I saw Seinfeld at the Majestic Theater in Dallas a few months ago. He did an hour show, a tremendous show, but he did about 10 minutes of the old stuff. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. I know what the punchline is to this. He does the bit about the horses coming down the track. Hey, let's be careful out here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I've seen this. And it was almost shocking to see Seinfeld work in the old stuff. And it just hit me again watching Springsteen. When he sang Born in the USA, the crowd just went nuts.
Right, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to do it.
If he didn't sing it,
even though you came up with that 40 years ago, it's fine to recycle it again.
Recycle it, right? The Eagles, if you go to a concert and they don't sing Hotel California,
right,
you're going to boo them off the stage.
But if you're still living on your joke from...
You do a joke that I know the punchline to, I'm going to look at you like...
In fact, I can prove this because about 10, I don't know how many years ago, but I went to see Andrew Dice Clay in Vegas. And it doesn't... When you do the same shit 30 years later, it doesn't
work. I went to the best example of this.
It was horrible.
As a frustrated stand-up comic, back in my day, I had a pretty good banquet speech. I finally figured out, one, I wanted to be funny, just to kind of get the crowd's attention. The mistake I made in the early days is I just went straight for the humor. I just did like 45 minutes of just straight jokes. And, parents were like, hey, we brought you here to speak to our graduating class or, the athlete. I did a joke.
You're like, what's the deal with
I'll give you my best one. This is back in my bad day. I was in Lancaster. And they were having a lot of problems with the kids wanted to go across the street to McDonald's for lunch. And the school said no one could leave the campus and cross the street. So one of my opening lines was, I said, this is a great education you have here in Lancaster. I mean, this is brilliant. They are preparing you to be the future leaders of America. They just don't trust you to cross the street for a hamburger and fries. And the kids just went nuts, of course. Now the school's mad, the parents are mad. But if I'd have stopped there, I'd have been fine. But instead...
You felt it. You felt the crowd.
I thought I got him.
Yeah.
So I said, I've never understood education. We spend 6 weeks teaching you how to parallel park in driver's ed. And I'm 58 years old, and I've never parallel parked in my life. I mean, I will drive around the block for an hour before I parallel park, but they insisted that I take 6 weeks of training to parallel park in driver's ed.
They're all loving it. Dale.
They don't give you one lesson on how to drive drunk, and hell, I do that 3-4 times a week. And I mean, the kids just came out of chairs. When I got done, and again, it was just nothing but jokes. And I mean, I had those kids eating out of the palm of my hand. But every school official and every parent was just as mad as me as they could be.
Mortified.
I'll never forget, the principal or the superintendent gets up at the end of my speech and just stares at me and says, interesting. Sent a letter to the great Dave Lane, the greatest general manager I've ever worked for or known in my life, and said we had Dale Hansen speak to our athletic banquet, and he started complaining about the fact that nobody taught him how to drive drunk because he does that 3 to 4 times a week. And Lane looked at me and said, I said, well, I think maybe you're right. I need to take that one out. But the punchline to this long story is I wasn't a professional speaker, so I just kind of, I just regurgitated the same stuff. And it was an Ingvald joke that I stole. I would go to a crowd and I said, how many of you in here have heard me speak before? And very seldom did anybody raise their hand. And if they did, I'm like, and if they didn't, of course, I'm like, great, all this old stuff will still work, which it did. Mm-hmm. On the rare occasions, I speak to like your Rotary Club, and I'd say, how many of you in here have heard me speak before? And they go, yeah, you spoke here like 6 months ago. I went, oh my God, I'm a dead man.
Uh-oh.
But I went to Alito, had this great banquet speech that I loved. I had all the right jokes, had the right message in the middle, closed with a bunch of jokes. I'd been doing it for the longest time, and it never missed. I go to the Alito football banquet, and I mean, it was crickets. It was 35, 40 minutes of just crickets. No parents, no kids, no nothing. And I'm driving home, and I call Chris, and I said, it was horrible. I said, I don't know what happened. I just died. And Chris goes, well, and this was like in, 2005, 2010, maybe something like that. And he said, well, did you do that Barry Switzer joke? And I said, well, yeah. I said, did you do that Jimmy Johnson joke? And I said, yeah. And then you segued off of the Jimmy Johnson joke talking about Tom Landry. I said, well, yeah. She goes, did you work in any Abraham Lincoln jokes? I said, well, she goes, Dale, these kids weren't alive when Jimmy Johnson was coaching. They sure as hell don't know Tom Landry. You could have just as easily done, boy, that Abraham Lincoln's a crazy guy, isn't he? And I thought, oh my God, I had gotten so comfortable with the material. Mm-hmm. And it has a shelf life. And Seinfeld did a big bit. Jay Leno did a special where he buried, I don't know if you ever remember seeing this, and he buried all this material, and they had a big funeral and a grave. And that's why I just have the greatest respect in the world for comedians. Because whatever you come up with, it's got a shelf life, and then you got to come up with something else. But if you can just come up with Born in the USA or Hotel California, you just cash that check for the rest of your life. Yeah.
The reason I brought that up, and that's interesting, I didn't know your banquet or your speaking engagement history was so robust. But I went to a Mike Modano charity dinner once where he was raising money, whatever. I don't know for what, children, I'm sure, something. The children weren't doing great before the charity event. Thriving after, right?
Yeah.
But you were incredible. I went with my wife. In fact, I was talking to her about this the other night because I told her you were going to be here, and she's like, oh, you love Dale. Dale was great. And I'll tell you something else she said in a moment. But it was that night. It was like, I swear to God, you guys don't understand what it's like to have Dale host a charity event. He's a fucking tornado up there. But so comfortable and hilarious. I think you had done the Madonna one probably.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like you had done that before, and I know Madonna's a great dude. And
Madonna's seriously one of my all-time favorite guys. But
and then when Dale, he has this thing where he'll be like, just telling you that, like, it's jokes and everything, but then somehow, like, Tom will say he likes listening to the whole show even when we do spots because, like, all of a sudden we're doing a spot he didn't know it was coming. Like, so now all of a sudden Dale is, like, kind of starting to talk about the charity and why it's important and how money is good and everything. He's like, damn it. And he pulls out his checkbook and he writes, like, he's like, here's a $5,000. And I was like, holy shit. And he's like, you get those, there's ladies walking around with it. And I'm like, yes, me. And my wife said, no, don't. She's like, we don't have that kind of money. I'm like, I had to, let me at least do 500.
Master of the craft.
Dale inspired me to give.
Well, that's, I'm
not a giver.
I did a deal one time and I bought like half the items at the charity. As I tell people, that was back in, as I say to my poker buddies now, I play a lot of poker in Dallas, and I just love poker. And I said, every time I get into a big pot, and I'm like, damn it. I said, there was a day, boys, when I would have raised you off this pot and not even blinked. But I said, I'm on a pension. I live on a pension now, so I fold. It was a major adjustment. But I take a certain amount of pride in I spend a little bit of money, but if I had a good time at a charity, I usually left a check behind, obviously. And there was a guy doing an MC, and he said, I've never been to a banquet where a guy was hired to be the featured speaker, and he bought half the items at the live auction. I went, yeah, okay. But it was for dogs, which
it's the best.
We do.
Those charity things are awesome because you get something out of it.
Yeah, I do. The one I was going to tell you, though, was funny. When I mentioned it, I went to San Antonio. And this company calls me, and they wanted me to speak. It's a bunch of electrical and air conditioning and heating contractors or something from all over the state of Texas. So they hired me for a pretty good chunk of money to go to San Antonio, and I was pretty good. I had a very good speech. They called back a year later, but I didn't connect the dots, and I swear to God, I don't know why. But I said, yeah, we'd like you to come to San Antonio to speak. And we heard about your speech there. And I went, yeah, okay, I can do that. So I go back, and I basically do the same speech. Yeah, I do same jokes. Talked about how they moved the Alamo. And no wonder they were able to hold off the Alamo for 13 days. The Mexicans are too short to shoot over the walls. I mean, just
it's hilarious.
Yes. And I said they couldn't shoot over the Ford dealership across the street, that block of all. And I'm doing all this stuff. And I mean nothing. I walk into Thorntree Country Club, and one of my good friends, Red Ellis, who's the big heating and air conditioning guy in DeSoto, and he goes, what the hell's wrong with you? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, that was the second year in a row you spoke to the same group. And we're all sitting there in the back there going, he's telling the same dumbass jokes. And I said, I swear to God, I don't know why, but I just never connected the dots. And I'm sitting there doing the Barry Switzer, Jerry Jones, whatever jokes that never fail me. And they're looking at me like, yeah, I know that. That's funny. That was funny a year ago. Yeah, okay.
At the height of Dale Hansen's powers, so like if it's a San Antonio thing, when you say they're going to pay me a good chunk of money, what does that mean? 5,000?
Usually 5. I had several for 10.
Okay.
Which is
that's a sweet night.
Yeah, I had a lady call me. I just did one about a year ago in Dallas. And there was a funny story along with this, I think, as well. But she called me and said, well, what do you charge? I've never charged. What I do is I say I accept whatever you pay your speakers. And I've had anything from, well, we're thinking $50. I said, okay, when is it? And they said, well, it's in Plano Saturday night. Let me check. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I've got a conflict. And
we soft negotiate.
Yeah, but I don't ever put anybody. You pay me whatever you want, and then I do decide if I'm willing to do it. So here I am, retired, struggling to make a little poker money on the side, and this woman from New York calls me, wants me to speak in Dallas during a luncheon. And she said, what do you charge? I gave her the same. So I said, I don't really charge. What do you pay your speakers? And she said, well, we're thinking $10,000 for the hour. And I about swallowed my tongue. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Hell, I'd have done it for $100. I did one. This was several years ago when there was a certain obligation I had, I think, for the benefit of Channel 8 and for myself, quite frankly, that I took about 90% of every speaking request that came my way. Because, one, I enjoyed doing it, as you guys can probably tell right now. But I also like doing it, period, in front of a crowd. And then most importantly, I like spreading the gospel of Dale Hansen Sports, Channel 8 News, whatever. This guy calls me, said, we'd like you to speak a bunch of insurance agents in Dallas. And it was like at the, I forget the name of the hotel, but it was a hotel right down the street from Channel 8. And he said, we need you there like at 11:30 for a little reception. And he said, let's have dinner and talk about it. And I said, well, I do this, 3 times a week minimum. I said, I don't, no, I want to take you to dinner. We go to the Palm, drinks, big steak dinner, the whole bit. And he says, well, we're thinking about $5,000. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, we'll pay you $5,000. You get there 11:30. Lunch from 12 to 12:30. You speak from 12:30 to 1. All right. So we're sitting at lunch. I'll never forget this. We're sitting at lunch, and the guy's eating a salad, and he looks at me, and he goes, Dale, I don't want to tell you how to do your business, but we were prepared and expecting to pay you $7,500. But once you took our initial offer of $5,000, we figured, what the hell? Just a heads up. I take a couple of bites of my salad. I said, listen, Bobby, with his boss sitting on my left, I said, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but if you'd have bought me a Bloody Mary and validated my parking, I'd have done it for free. And he about jabbed himself in the eye. I said, you're 3 blocks from my studio. I really like a Bloody Mary at noon. And I'd have been happy to speak in front of 250 people for half an hour. And he was livid. The only downside to it was I killed at that particular luncheon. I get a call. Guy says, similar kind of a deal. He said, we'll give you $2,500. I said, fine, piece of cake. Well, then he tells his buddy, we just got Dale Hansen, and we're paying him $2,500. That guy calls me. He said, this is outrageous. You charged us $5,000. You only charged this guy. I said, I didn't charge either one of you. I said, you offered $5,000. He offered $2,500. I said, you could have offered, as I said to that lunch, I said, you could have offered me a Bloody Mary and validate my parking. I said, I did get some blowback on that from people saying that wasn't fair or that wasn't right, but I still stand by it, that I didn't want to be in the position, because I did have an agent at one time for just a couple of weeks, and he's telling the high schools, Dale will speak for $1,000, $2,000. Well, no, I can't be in that position.
That feels bad.
Yeah, I've got to speak to the charity group or whatever.
Yeah.
And as an agent, he was trying to, I said, no, that's not what I told you to do. So I said, no, I'm just going to do it on my own. And then again, the great Dave Lane said, are you charging these people to speak? I said, no, I don't charge anybody. But I said, Dave, if they're offering $1,000 to every speaker in the lineup, why should I have to go for free? And I said, Dave, all I ever do is say, are you paying your speakers? I'll take whatever you're paying. And he goes, well, I guess that's fair. And I still think it's fair. I did get some blowback on it from people at Casey when they find out that I did it for different prices. Offer me $50. And I may or may not do it for $50.
So you have deemed your actions to be fair. And
trying to be fair.
Yeah.
Trying to be fair. You know?
The other thing, so as I was talking to my wife, this is funny because she's like, you love Dale, we love Dale. She loved you at that event. And then she's like, boy, how about that Ellen stuff?
Yeah.
And
that was a rush. That was a rush from hell. Yeah.
But probably the same way that, and I guess most people listening will know, but, as Dale Hansen, longtime dominant sports reporter here in DFW, like a legend. I would guess you're in whatever Hall of Fames there are for that kind of stuff.
No,
right?
matter of fact, I'm not.
You're not in the Texas Sports Hall of
Fame?
For real?
Did my wife call you?
No. Is she like pissed about that too?
No, but I am. No.
I would think you should be. SMU, Sting, the Cowboys.
I swear to you. You set me up. You set me up for this.
No,
right?
I don't know.
Trust me,
I just assumed you were.
I don't know what. This came up last week. And I forget who it was, but somebody was like being argued about for the Hall of Fame, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to be in when I'm dead." You know? What I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Pete Rose or somebody.
What good would that do you?
Yeah, and I said to Chris, just out of the blue, we're sitting there, and I said, "Listen, by the way, if the Texas Sports Hall of Fame from Waco calls you after I die and wants to put me in the Hall of Fame, say no. I don't want to go in after I'm dead." And she said, well, aren't we cocky? And I said, well, I'm just saying. I looked up the list.
Yeah, and you're like,
I think I'm worthy. You know, I think I'm worthy. But there's a part of me.
Like Scott Murray's probably.
There's a part. Yeah, no, Scott's not in there. That's when I would draw the line.
Randy Galloway.
Galloway's in. Brad's in. Vern, of course. Blackie, I think. I mean, again, that's a pretty good. It really is a pretty good group. I've been to the museum several times. It's actually a pretty nice thing.
But that's where I would throw Dale Hansen's name. When you're talking about Dallas.
The same air.
Blackie, Vern. I don't know about Vern. Vern's even older, right? But anyway, among the well-known,
I think it's
Dallas
incredible that think about this, from 1965 until 2021, Channel 8 had two main sports anchors. In this business, and you know this business.
Who preceded you?
Vern.
Oh, that was Vern. Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Vern started at 65. He went until I came there in 83, and he finished out the year, and then he went network full-time. And then I did it from 83 to 2021. And Joe Trahan now is the third. Now, Bill McAtee was there, and Bill McAtee deserves a certain amount of props, but he was doing the 10. But he only did it for a couple of years, and I don't think most people, when they thought of Channel 8 sports, they didn't necessarily jump right to McAtee, because Vern was still a dominant force there. And when I came to Dallas in 1980, it was one of my favorite deals as an applicant for a job. I'm at Channel 4, and they put in a tape of Vern Lundquist. And I guess this is incredibly arrogant on my part, but I really do. I think it was just incredibly smart. I had done a little bit of research. They had 44 sports anchors at Channel 4 from 1965 until 1980. 44, while Vern Lundquist was there by himself. And what Channel 4 did, because they were so bad, they had Brad Sham, they had Norm Hill. They bring you in for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and if you didn't just start knocking out the ratings, they just replaced you. Uh-huh. I don't think they had anybody there for like a year. I mean, Alan Stone, became the Mavericks public relations. It was just ridiculous. So I come in the summer of 1980, and Wayne Nelson was the news director, and he puts in this tape of Vern Lundquist doing sports. And he goes, can you do this? Now, I'm unemployed. I've been fired in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm unemployed for about, at that time, 3-4 months. And I swear to God, I looked at him, I said, I could, but I won't. And they're like, no, I mean, he's the guy. I said, yeah, he absolutely is the guy. And Vern got very pissed when this story got out. And I tried to explain to him a half a dozen times, this was the highest compliment I could pay Vern Lundquist. And I hope that he finally figured out that it was. I said, the mistake you're making at Channel 4 is you're trying to find Vern Lundquist. I said, why would I be watching Vern Lundquist Light if I can watch Vern Lundquist? I said, the only chance you have to compete is to give them something entirely different. Now, it did suit my personality. It kind of fit into what I wanted to do. But I said, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cover high school sports, which they didn't do in 1980 in Dallas. I'm going to do jokes. I'm probably going to say some things that tick off the Rangers or piss off the Cowboys or whatever. And I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to do live shots in bars, which I did on every Monday night show. When Tommy Hearns fought Sugar Ray Leonard, I did it at some guy's apartment. And we're all just stacking up beer cans. And I had a Rock'em Sock'em Robots. And I swear to you, I nailed the fight. It was just a joke. But I had the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. And then I had crowd shots. And, there's John Wayne at ringside. And we're blowing smoke into the ring and everything. And I'm at a bar. I'm at a guy's apartment. We're all just rowdy as hell. So I did weird stuff, which really offended Vern, and offended, quite honestly, the Ed Barks of the world, the purist of the world. And in fact, all I meant by it was, I knew I could not compete with Vern Lundquist on Vern Lundquist field.
Yeah.
I had to, just like you guys did at the Ticket for so many years. You
have to be different.
You got to be different. And Vern, I think, was somewhat offended by it for the longest time, because it's kind of like when Troy Dungan left the weather of Channel 8, and here comes Pete Delkus. And Delkus is doing a lot of different things. Well, Troy was offended. Well, no, this is how you do it. I did, well, yeah, and you did it great. You were fantastic. And now we're moving on. You have to do it different.
Yeah.
And but it was. They were just shocked. And then John McKay, not the anchor John McKay, that was the name of the general manager at Channel 4. And he's leaning back up against the wall when I tell him and his news director that, no, I won't do it like Vern does. And he says to me, would you wrestle a bear? Because I wrestled a bear in Omaha. That's all I had on my audition tape, was me wrestling a bear, because I never thought I was going to leave Omaha, Nebraska, quite honestly. So I didn't have an audition tape like most people do. But on this particular tape, I wrestled a bear. And John McKay says, well, if I do hire you, will you wrestle a bear? And I'm like, hell, find me a bear, I'll wrestle the son of a bitch. And they found a bear. So I wrestled a bear. I probably only in Dallas about 4 or 5 months, which I think was the starting point of me somewhat gaining a foothold. Vern's over there going, well, Danny White sprained his ankle in practice today, and it's a day-to-day situation.
I've got him in that.
And we're over here going, okay, here's me wrestling a bear. And Mom and Grandma just laughed their ass off that I'm getting tossed around by this bear. And I failed to mention that Danny White sprained his ankle, may not practice tomorrow. I gave him a choice. And it worked. And the same thing happened when I went to Channel 8 in 83 after I got fired at Channel 4. Marty Haig, greatest news director I've ever worked with in my life. And we're sitting at this a consulting company out in Irving. And he says to me, what would you do if you came to Channel 8 compared to what I was doing, at Channel 4? He said, would you do the same thing? I said, no, absolutely not. I said, you've got a better travel budget. But I said, I would drop the ball scores, which was a big thing back in then. And I said, I would get rid of the ball scores. I would show highlights. I wouldn't use Bud Fitopoulos out of Chicago. And he was just that canned announcer. And Vern would come on and go, the Cubs played the Braves today. And here's Bud Fitopoulos. And there'd be this studio recording of, in the top of the second inning, Ryan Sandberg. I said, first thing I do is fire Bud Fitopoulos. And I would insist upon covering high school sports. And Marty Haig, and again, keeping in mind, I'm unemployed. I've been fired. And Marty Haig looked at me and said, our consultants have been telling us that for a long time. And I looked right at Marty Haig. I said, you've got very good consultants. And they hired me. And again, I think Vern took that as a bit of an insult, because I knew he was headed to the network. I was going to become the full-time anchor, and I just wanted to do it differently than Vern did. It wasn't I'm well aware of how good Vern Lundgren.
What were you saying, though, that you wouldn't do what you did at Channel 4?
Oh, I wouldn't do nearly as many crazy routines and crazy bits.
Because you were trying to get noticed.
I was trying to get noticed then.
Yeah.
Now I am noticed. Plus they had Jerry Orr. And what I said, if we've got a Jerry Orr story, and that was another line I used, which I think did piss Vern off. I said, I promise you, if we have a Jerry Orr story, it will play all the way to the end.
What's Jerry Orr? I'm unfamiliar. I'm sorry.
Jerry Orr was an outrageously funny sports reporter.
Okay. For Channel 8? For
Channel 8. And during one of the NFL strikes in 82, I think it was, the NFL strike, he interviewed all the Cowboys and Landry and Tex Schramm at a nursing home. And he had like this 80-year-old guy, and he's interviewing him. He's Tony Dorsett. And he's got this 90-year-old guy. And so, Tex, is this thing going to get resolved or not? And, you had to see it, but It was. And I'm sitting over at Channel 4 going, my God, that's gold. That's absolute
mad
gold.
You didn't think of it.
And madder than hell I didn't think of it. But he just did some crazy stuff. And so I said, if I've got a Jerry Orr package, then I'll just be a straight guy. I'll be the straight man. I'll just do sports boom. If we don't have Jerry on that night, then I might do something funny. I might do something weird, whatever. But I said I would temper it down. And so when I did move there, I got a lot of criticism from people saying, well, you're not nearly as funny as you were at Channel 4. And then at the same time, I got you're not nearly as crazy as you were at Channel 4.
Yeah.
And I then kind of worked it together. And I think that's the one talent that I am not afraid to say I had, is that I understand an audience. I think I understood an audience from my speaking days, from my frustrated stand-up comic days. People find this hard to believe, but I never did a sportscast for me. I did it for Bob and Martha. And I knew what Bob and Martha wanted. People would call me and say, well, I just moved here from Indiana, and you don't even cover college basketball. And I said, yeah, I noticed, because I was in Indiana last week, and they didn't say a damn word about the Cowboys. And I'd have people say, hey, I just moved here from Minnesota. You don't cover the Dallas Stars. And I said, yeah, I know. I was in Minnesota. They don't cover the Rangers. I mean, I don't understand. I can always tell, I love Norm Hitzges, but Norm Hitzges is doing a sport, and now he's hyping it. Tim Matthews was doing play-by-play for the Dallas Sidekicks. Hell, he's leading his sportscast with indoor soccer in Dallas. Indoor soccer. I mean, come on. Tattoo was popular, but come on.
Yeah.
And, that's right. He's doing it for his benefit, and a lot of guys do that.
Right.
I said, if it was just me, I'd be basically doing Cowboys and golf. But that, I did a minuscule amount of golf. Only, and most of that was geared toward the fact that, well, we got tournaments in Dallas, we got local players in Dallas, but I don't go bonkers on a golf tournament because I happen to like it. I put it into perspective as to how it fit with the total picture of the audience, and I think I did that part of it well.
And that's why Dale should be in the Hall of Fame.
I think I'm not exactly sure of the timeline here, but when you're doing things like when do you introduce Unplugged?
Unplugged actually was kind of I've always done
the commentaries,
but they were never really organized in any fashion. And I'm trying to think of the year. It was probably I don't even know. Barry Switzer was coaching, so it had to be back in the 90s. And Channel 8 actually came to me, and the commentaries were starting to get noticed a little bit. And they said that we want to do one like every Thursday night during the rating books, right? Just your typical rating books gimmick. And I said, well, number one, I don't really write that way because my second hardest job, in my opinion, is the columnist who has to come up with something 2-3 times a week.
So you have to feel it. It has to actually be a thing, and you can't schedule it.
I always get a kick out of the fact people would introduce me at a banquet, and they go, we all watch Dale. Every week he does, these commentaries. No, I did the commentaries only like once every couple of months. But for whatever reason, they were received like, oh, my God, he's preaching again, every week. No, I'd maybe do 8-10 a year, tops. But I had a lot of other smart aleck comments or whatever, but the actual comment. So anyway, John Miller was a news director at the time, and he came to me, and it would have been 95, 96, somewhere in there, and said, we'd like to use your commentaries on a regular Thursday night basis during the rating books as a hook. And I said, well, I'll do it. I'm not crazy about it because, again, it was hard for me because I don't write like that. I got all the respect in the world for the people who crank it out all the time. And I said, but the problem is if I do it every week, I'm going to eventually piss everybody off. The way I view a commentary, if you don't piss somebody off, you failed. Every commentary should get a hell of a blowback, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's not worth saying. And I said, you're eventually going to get tired of it. And it took 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said something about Barry Switzer. I don't even remember what. And they called me and said, well, that was too much. So I said, okay, I won't write anymore. Well, then here comes the manager. No, we want you to keep writing. And I actually had it in my contract. I had them write it in the contract that the commentaries are my own. And unless I libel or slander someone, they couldn't change a word.
Wow.
And Galloway used to always bitch at me. And he said, you don't know how lucky you are.
Yeah.
'Cause I've been with Galloway several times. We were up at Louis, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and there's some editor screaming at Galloway. They're changing it, and then Galloway screaming back at the editor, no, I wanted in that, and he then would have to give in to the editor. The Morning News called me a few months ago, and they wanted me to write commentaries or columns for them. And I blew the whole thing, but I started the conversation with, let me just be very clear. If I agree to write these, you can't change them. And I could see the guy going, oh, God, I got 30 minutes to finish my salad.
But why call Dale Hansen then? That's what Dan always says about when the shock jock gets in trouble. It's like, well, you
one time I did. I libeled and slandered a Little League baseball commissioner, and I really did go nuts on him. It was stupid. And that was the only time. They would call me when I wrote. I can't think who it was. Greg Ellis, the defensive end. Mm-hmm. And I said, I will never understand why a Cowboys fan will stand up and cheer Greg Ellis, because the only reason he's here is because he beat up a woman in Carolina. And I said,
Greg Hardy.
Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
Greg. Oh, God, not Greg Ellis.
I was making sure.
Greg Hardy. Thank you.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know that about Greg Ellis.
Seemed like a great dude.
Yeah, Greg Ellis is driving around and listening. Hey, not me. No, Greg Hardy. You're right. Thank you.
The futon of guns.
I'm 77. I lose.
Oh, but I associate the Greg Hardy thing with you.
And I did. Reason. And I said, if Greg Hardy, I want to know how the father explains to his daughter, Daddy, why are we standing and cheering? Because and the only answer is, well, he beat up that woman in Carolina, so we were able to pick him up for a song. And I said, and the reality is, if Greg Hardy showed up at their front door to pick up their daughter for a night on the town, that same father would shoot his ass through the glass. The whole newsroom went nuts. Well, typical liberal newsroom, they were offended that I said shoot. That you can't say shoot. I mean, you're implying it's a play on words. And I thought you were mad about me saying his ass. Next thing you know, the phone rings, and it's Carolyn Mungo, who was the news director at that time. And she goes, well, I know the deal, but I'm getting a lot of calls from the newsroom. What's everybody upset about? I said, well, can I read it to you? She said, yeah. So I read her the commentary, and then I get to that line, and she chuckles on the phone. And we get to the end, and she goes, so what's the problem? And I said, well, I assume it's because I said, shoot his ass through the glass. And they go, well, what other body part rhymes with glass? I mean, shooting through the door, I can't think of any body part that rhymes with door. And I said, well, I like it. She goes, no, it's funny. It's clever. And next thing you know, ESPN, the magazine or something, writes this article, never been a more provocative line ever uttered on local television. And I'm like, well, hey, appreciate it. Get it in there. And I'm like, no, shoot his ass through the glass. I'm sorry, I thought it was funny. And but I also think it's true. That Greg Hardy would not be allowed to date their daughter, and yet they cheer like hell because he's a that was a pretty decent football player, and it just offends me.
One of the so we go back to the Ellen thing.
Yeah.
So the thing about the Ellen thing, and the thing about you, and the many-layered onion that is Dale Hansen, it's your comedy. Like you said, here's a typical liberal newsroom, yet I also think of you like as a liberal guy, kind of. But your comedy would have some, quote, typical liberals like, this is not a good guy because he wants to be misogynistic the wife in the kitchen. Did we play that yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you got any of that ready.
Yeah.
Want? Do you?
I can.
Oh, okay. But it's just funny stuff.
To me, it
like
is.
we're fun. Like no, we can laugh, but then you can actually
Care.
act. You don't really mean it, type thing. Or
No,
I doubt
not
that
the
you're
offensive
making
ones.
Miss Hansen, the lovely Mrs. Hansen, wait or change your oil and then make sure. Like it's all funny. But then, so if we got this guy with that comedy, we then think something about him, and there's no way he's not offended at Michael Sam. Like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Look at this old racist who hates all... He must be racist and hates all gay people.
He just beats him up.
But look how he actually said something like logical and normal.
Most people thought...
My God, the world then broke.
It broke in half. Most people thought for years, when I first came to Dallas, that I was a racist guy. And I finally said to a guy, I said, apparently you don't know me. He said, well, you're critical of this guy. I said, well, I'm critical of athletes when they do something really insanely stupid. And the vast majority of, say, like the NFL is black. The vast majority of the NBA is black. And it's like the line, you stand on the upper deck and throw a pop bottle out onto the court at a Mavericks game or out onto the field of the football game, there's a pretty good chance you're going to hit a black guy in the head. I'm an equal opportunity offender. And the same thing applies to my misogynistic jokes, I guess. The one that you probably don't remember, and I'll go ahead and start it over because I don't care now. The statute of limitations is expired for me. But the most offensive thing I think I ever said on the air, which somehow I managed to survive it. Do you remember Robin Givens when she was married to Mike Tyson? Do you know this joke at all? You don't know the story.
I don't know the joke, but I'm
the
reading the Tyson book right now where they're married.
And Robin Givens and Mike Tyson are being interviewed by Barbara Walters on ABC. And Mike Tyson is sitting there like a drugged out zombie that he basically was. And Robin Givens is just blowing his ass up. I mean, she's just sitting there like, this piece of shit. He beats me. He throws me around. He bounces me off walls. He treats me like hell. He and just goes on and on and on. And he's just kind of sitting there with that stupid grin on his face. So I ran a clip. of that interview. And I paused when I came out. And I went, if my wife said that about me on national television, hell, I'd slap her upside the head too. Martha, I think her name was Pringle. Forgive me, Martha, if you hear this, but she's running camera, and she laughs so hard, the camera shakes. I mean, if you ever find a video, the camera shakes. And then we get to the commercial break, and she goes, oh, my God, Dale, you can't say that. That's incredibly offensive. And I said, well, did you think of that after the camera stopped shaking? Doug Fox, one of the all-time great guys I ever worked with, comes in the next day. He said, my wife and I laughed so hard, we both rolled out of bed. And then my wife looked at me and goes, that is offensive. That is bullshit. And I said, did she get back in bed before she said that? Well, here's what I found. And unfortunately, it's true that when I make these jokes, people say, well, no, he's a misogynist pig. He's not the liberal he claims to be or whatever. And then when I apologize, because I'm sorry if you're deeply hurt. It's not my goal. I just happen to think it was funny. Then when I apologize, every one of them says, oh, well, now he's joking. And I said, okay, so when I was making a joke, you know I'm serious.
Right.
But when I'm
You're trying to elicit a laugh.
I'm going for the cheap laugh.
Yeah.
And when I'm apologizing, I'm joking. This is ridiculous. I said to Ed Bark when he wrote about that back then, and he wrote about it again in 21 when I made the joke about a woman's paycheck or whatever. And I said, here's the reality of my life. I think it's the very best thing about me. By far, it's the single best thing about me is that I have the ability to laugh at anything. It keeps me sane. I can laugh at anything. The worst thing about me, by far, is that I have the ability to laugh at anything. If the joke is funny, I laugh. I did this on the ticket, and I think you were there when I did it. I said, I will give you $100. Anybody listening right now, send me or call me with a joke that makes me laugh. And I can't tell you who might be offended by it. I'm not saying they should be, but they might be offended by it. Send me that joke, and I will send you $100.
You're saying every joke has something?
Every joke that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Pope, the priest, and the Jew walked into the bar. Okay, we're done. I had people call me. I swear to God, I had people call me at Channel 8. Dale, I got one for you. I said, go ahead. Here come the N-word flying out. Right off the bat.
Wrong part of the country.
All right, so two blondes were walking into a bar, and we're done now. Now, I'm not saying they start doing fat jokes. They start. I've never heard it, and I swear to you, I'll renew it on your show here. I've never. I had people. Then I had people go, Dale, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? Not quite $100 joke. I mean, it's just not.
It didn't make you laugh. No.
Make me laugh. Same thing I said about my commentaries. People like it. You go back to this for a moment again. Like the Michael Sam commentary. People say, "Well, we know you don't believe that, but your liberal corporate owners made you
say that."
Yeah, I'm like, well, apparently you don't know who I work for.
Michael Sam should live.
Yeah, that Michael Sam should have a normal life.
Yeah.
And I said, apparently you don't know my corporate owners. I mean, please.
Yeah, we're finding it.
But I'm sitting going, no, I write this, and I swear, I've written commentaries. I swear to you. In fact, Michael Sam was one of them. I write that commentary, and this is how lucky I've been in my life. I'm sitting there on a Sunday night. The Michael Sam story breaks on ESPN about 9 o'clock at night. Oh, my God, where am I going to put it now? The show's already done. It's all timed out. If I go back and try to add it, I got to take I said, I just don't want to do it. I'll do it another day. So Sean Hamilton, the producer, comes to me, and he said, listen, we got a scheduling problem for tomorrow. We don't have a reporter. He said, I was hoping you could write a commentary. And I said, what do you want me to write about? And he said, well, I'm thinking Michael Sam. And I said, well, I haven't really thought about it, but maybe. And he said, or there was a kid from Flower Mound that went to Oklahoma State, and he punched a fan because they called him the N-word. And I said, oh, hell, I've written about that so many times, I don't have anything more to say. And he goes, no, good. So I was hoping you'd write about Michael Sam. So I said, well, let me think about it. I don't know exactly how I want to phrase it. So I'm driving home listening to talk radio, and I'm just getting madder and madder and madder because these idiots are just calling up with the most outrageous stuff I've ever heard. I get up the next morning, I'm reading the columns. I'm like, oh, my God, these homophobic bastards out there. So I get into the station. I said, Sean, I think I got something. I write it up. Sean's a very, very conservative, church-going guy. And I said, I got it. Come on in here. He comes into my office. And again, I promise you this is true. He comes in, I read it to him. He goes, yeah, I think that's fine. I'm like, fine? Hell, I thought a little bit better than that. Yeah. And so I then go over to Havana Cigar Bar, which I did a lot. And I've got my very liberal friend, Judge Eric Moyer. And I've got I call him So-So. Brian Damaris does the Mavericks color. And Brian, I call him So-So because he says, well, I'm a Republican, but I'm socially liberal. And so I give them the highlights. I didn't read the actual commentary, but I give them the highlights. And the judge says, yeah, I think that'll work. And Brian looks at me and goes, no, I think that's okay. That's okay. So I read it to 3 people. And I read it to Arnold Payne, who's also a very liberal guy, our photographer at Channel 8. And he said, yeah, that'll do.
But no one was like, hey, this is earth-shattering.
Right. No, nobody. So I swear to you, I hit the air thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it's got some good stuff in here. But apparently not, because I've read it to 4 different people.
No one was like, whoa.
Who are inclined to agree with you, too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got it'll do, it'll work, it's okay, it's fine. So I read the commentary. Billy's son's every bit as liberal as me, if that's possible, but he's running the camera, and he pokes his head around the camera when I'm done. He goes, so what do you think the reaction to that'll be? I said, oh, hell, I'll probably get 100 emails over the next month, and 50 of them will love me, and 50 of them will hate me. And he goes, okay, yeah. I get in my car. Sean called. He goes, oh, my God, you blew it up. I said, Sean, I read it. He goes, well, you didn't read it like that, which there might be something to that. But I said, Sean, you heard everything. He goes, no. He said, the whole newsroom's going crazy. Phones are lighting up. I said, but you said it would work. He goes, oh, no, it really would. I get home.
So that's that night.
That's that night.
You're getting feedback already.
I drive home to lovely Waxahachie. By the time I get home, I've got like 400 emails. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of quick. I get up the next morning, I got like 1,100. I get to the station at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got 2,000. And now they're coming in from all over the country. They're coming in from all over the world. I got emails from London.
This thing went viral
right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I promise you this is true. I'm thinking, how big of an antenna do these some bitches have? I mean, they're watching this in Minnesota. I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know about going viral on Reddit or whatever that is. I didn't know. And Shelley Slater was our 5 o'clock anchor, and she goes, "You don't even realize what's happened." I said, "No." I said, "How's this happen? How's this possible?" She goes, "You've gone viral." Hell, I feel fine. I feel good. I mean, and the next day, Ellen DeGeneres show calls.
The next day.
So
this is like the day after the thing?
The day after.
Wow.
And, CNN calls and ABC's Nightline calls. And
did you do all of those?
I couldn't do the CNN show because I agreed to do Ellen first, obviously. And they had an embargo that would take me through the rest of the week. And so
CNN did.
No,
Ellen.
Ellen show.
Grab you. We don't want you going elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, okay. We don't want you going on, whatever. And I was going to. So I thought, well, I'll go to L.A. I'll do the Ellen show, and then I'll go over to the CNN studio that night. And the Ellen deal was, no, our show's not running until the following day. And it was Pierce Morgan, which would have been kind of fun, I think.
Yeah.
But I did the Nightline one, which is one of my other fun stories. I thought they were just going to interview me, and it's what you said earlier, Dan. I did like the words. I did like the commentary, but without a single question, if I was a 35-year-old thin guy with a full head of hair in Los Angeles, I don't know how much that would have buzzed anybody.
I say 0.
Of course.
I'd like to think it might be 4, but
I don't know. It's just
right.
It wasn't. To me, it wasn't a crazy thought what he said.
No,
it was what I thought. What you thought, right? Like this guy.
Almost every email I got, almost every single email I got, the positive ones began with, I heard about an older white gentleman in Texas.
Yeah.
Talking about gay rights. I was prepared to smash my computer, but oh my God, you're the greatest guy in the world. And I'm getting all this nonsense. And I go on ABC's Nightline, and I'm thinking they're just going to want to talk to me. No, I'm now in a debate with a black preacher. I thought, oh my God. I mean, this is unbelievable.
He's saying this is Michael Sam.
This is horrible.
Kissing this guy's back.
And I can't see the monitor, but I got home, and I have to admit I kind of like this. I can't see anything. I just have the camera on my face. And this preacher goes off on a tirade that these are against the laws of God. These are against the laws of our country. We have to follow the moral code of our communities, etc. And I did. I said, it wasn't that long ago, sir, that a black man would be in prison for taking a white woman across that border into your state of Louisiana. You think we should go back to that? And I thought, well, that's pretty good. And the anchor, it wasn't Koppel, but whoever it was, and the anchor yeah, you nailed him. I walked back up in the newsroom, everybody's cheering and laughing. I thought, but the point of that is, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I would write a lot of these commentaries. Some of the things I would say on the air, what the hell's that all about? I mean, Now, I did say some things. Okay, this is going to light up the switchboard. And it didn't. I thought, whoa, once I do this commentary, all hell's going to break loose. Nah, nothing. And then I say, I just fill a little time here, and I'll just drop this line in. And I still don't know how you decide that. But that was, without question, a career-defining moment for me, which one I happen to embrace.
They don't pay you, right, Ellen?
No.
They fly you out?
They flew us out.
First class?
First class. Put us in a nice hotel.
Us?
Never met her.
Who's us?
Well, I said, I'll come, but I had to bring my wife.
Okay.
So I called Chris. Chris loves the Ellen Show at that time. I called Chris. I said, guess who wants to meet me? And Chris goes, President Obama. I said, well, let's not get carried away.
Bigger.
And then she goes, Ellen DeGeneres. I said, yeah. I said, so you want to go to L.A. tomorrow? And she goes, oh, my God. So Chris just went nuts. And we fly out.
Because I think that's about the height of Ellen.
Yeah, it's
Her power. She was winning Emmys.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That show was on for a while. It went up, went down, but like that was the.
If I may,
it was like where every viral moment would go there.
I got to give you a great story about this. And Kevin Costner was on the show right after me, which, as I said, I think that's about right. That's about right.
Right.
So I'm upstairs, and I'm doing 250 radio interviews around the country. And Sean is calling me saying, okay, we got 5 more requests. And I'm trying to do as many as I can because I do like doing it. And the producer for the Ellen Show, this is after I've been on, and she goes, Dale, Kevin Costner's downstairs, and he'd like to meet you. And I'm on the phone with Sean. I said, well, good. Tell him to come on up. And her eyes like, oh. I said, Sean, gotta go. Well, here's the stuff. In 1993, I'm at the NFC Championship game in San Francisco. And Pat Summerall is there to do the game, and he's on the sideline with Kevin Costner. And he calls me over. And Costner at that time is like, 25, 30. Staggeringly good looking. I mean, staggeringly good looking coming from this heterosexual guy.
Yeah. If you had to go homosexual.
If I am going to go.
That would have been a top choice.
He's right off the top. And I walk up, and I am so stunned that I'm going to meet Kevin Costner. I swear to you, I walked up, I go, I love all your movies. And for 25 years, every time Costner would pop up on TV or doing a show or whatever, Chris would look over at me and she goes, Dale, do you just love all his movies?
Okay, so she's just making fun of you.
And again, I promise you,
this is your lowest moment.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I mean, I love what you
dork.
I swear to you, it went down just this way. We're walking downstairs. I said, now, Chris, let me just warn you. This is the most staggeringly good-looking man you've ever met in your life. Please don't embarrass me. Try to be cool because he's going to take your breath away when you see him. He's that good-looking. And Chris looks at me and she goes, I know. I'll just walk up to him and go, I just love all your movies. I said, oh, you smart ass. We walk in. He comes walking from the back of this big suite that he had. And he goes, hi, I'm Kevin Costner. And to this day, I'm like, no shit. I mean, I don't know what he's supposed to say, but he just seemed awkward.
Yeah.
I go, hi, Kevin, I'm Dale Hansen. This is my wife, Chris. And Chris goes, I love all your movies. And I just start howling.
Like overemphasize it?
Oh, she's like, I love all your movies. She's doing it for you. No, she's doing it because she just...
Right.
And I just start laughing.
Okay.
And Costner and his whole entourage, you got about 15 people there. And I swear to God, I laughed so hard, it was almost a fake laugh, but it wasn't. I mean, I'm just blown away because she's given me shit about this for 20 years. And Costner kind of said, I said, oh, hold on, Kevin. I said, there's a story with it. I got to give you, and I gave him the story. Now they're all laughing. We stood there for about 20 to 30 minutes telling stories, talking about movies. I looked at him. I said, listen, I really do love your work. I said, I think you've done some great movies. And then I do it. I from a frustrated I said, but you really should have laid up on 18.
All right.
You remember Tin Cup?
Tin Cup. Roy McAvoy.
And he just kept trying to knock it on in two, and he blows the U.S. Open, and he just keeps hitting the ball in the water. And I just thought, I do love your movies, but you should have laid up on 18. And he just laughs. He said, Dale. He said, what was his name? Whatever the
Roy
guy.
McAvoy.
Yeah, and he goes, layup's not in his blood. He's got to go for it. I said, well, I understand that, but you should have laid up. And he goes, they changed the ending of that movie. The ending of that movie originally was, after he knocks it in the water like 3 times, he blows the U.S. Open, he goes outside the scorer's tent, and he breaks down sobbing that his whole life has flashed past him because he got greedy and his ego kicked in. But the audience in their previews didn't like that ending.
Yeah.
So they changed it. And Chris then says, they changed it where he makes a joke and he outdrives Don Johnson by hitting it down a highway or whatever. And Chris looks at him and says, do they do that a lot? And he looks at us and he goes, do you remember the movie Bull Durham? And I'm like, well, who the hell doesn't remember Bull Durham? He said, you remember the scene in the Black Whorehouse? He said, the original movie was, I'm in the Black Whorehouse playing the piano, and I end up getting in a fight. But they thought that's too much. So they made us go outside to have the fight. And then he just stopped. He looked at me and goes, man, and I really love the Black Whorehouse. And I got my arm around Chris, and I said, I don't know about that. He goes, well, then apparently you've never been in a Black Whorehouse. And I mean, it's the most amazing moment of our lives. And finally, I said, we got to go. Hell, we might still be standing there.
You ended the conversation.
I ended it because we had to
Kevin
catch a flight back to Dallas. And Chris will tell you the same thing. I mean, she just went nuts. And those kind of things, and this is what a lot of people, I think, perceive as my ego or my arrogance or whatever. It's really nothing more than I'm from Logan, Iowa. Never went to college a day in my life. Been fired from 8 jobs. I had 59 kids in my graduating class. And I'm now flying out to do the Ellen show. And Kevin Costner wants to meet me. And I went to D.C. for a national award. And President Obama wanted to see if I was available to come over and meet him at his office. This was 2019. And I'm just like, where the hell did this all come from? And I embrace it, and I'm proud of it, and I'm happy about it. But I have tried very hard to give back as much as I can. And at the same time, I think the only thing that separates me from a lot of people is that I accept the skin that I'm wrapped in. I mean, I've got mirrors in my house. I'm well aware of what's happened to me over my lifetime. Because in my day, I was stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. I was stunning. But I've always, every day of my life, I'm like, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And I think the same thing happened when I got fired. I was always afraid to fail my dad. So as hard as it was at times, as scary as it was at times, I never had the luxury of giving up or quitting. And somehow, some way, in my opinion, that has been interpreted as my incredible ego and arrogance. And I'm like, no, it's just, it's nothing more than my commitment to keep going forward with what I believe in. And I do not apologize for what I believe in, which too many people do today, in my opinion.
The incredible ego, though, kept in check because you can't get into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
Nope.
One thing I want to play is this is a misogynistic Dale from way back. So we have some fun stuff with you and Delkus and all that kind of. We love it. It's great. But this is, I don't know if these guys have ever heard this. This is from the very early 2000s. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it was the first year that Melissa Stark was doing the sidelines on the NFL Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are you familiar with what I'm about to play?
No.
All right, so George Reba is out there.
I'm starting to get a little worried here now, yeah.
You are on the news. Okay. You're throwing it out to a bar or somewhere where maybe it's the field where George Reba is with Melissa Stark. She can't hear you. George can hear you.
Right.
This is from the Bob and Dan show where we're listening to you from last night because you'll hear me laugh and hear a little bit.
All right, here we go.
So.
All right, let me come back to all you guys sitting here at the table, but George Reba's got a guest with him again in Landover, Maryland tonight, so let's go there. George?
Well, she's been with the ABC crew for the first year this year, ABC Monday Night. Melissa Stark, I want to know how you like your job, first of all.
Oh, how can you not love it? I mean, look around. You've got the players running out. You're actually part of the game, which is really fun to be on the field. You know, when I was working at ESPN, you'd have to get off the field before the game, and then you'd go in the locker room and stuff after the game. But to be part of the telecast and to be part of all the hype and the excitement is really fun.
I saw a guy over here. He's got a tape on his back that says, Melissa, please interview me. So.
Oh, gosh, I didn't see that. But I don't know if I'll be able to find him. I don't know if I'll have time. But you know what's really fun is you're close to the fans, so they can shout whatever they want to shout, or they can hold up signs, and that's sort of fun to see.
So are you finding this to be a little more exposure than ESPN?
Yes, it's a lot more exposure. That's good and bad, I guess. I don't know. If you mess up, it's, so many more people are watching. But, you can't think about that almost. You have to just keep your focus. You can't think. There's so many more viewers watching. It just has to be you and the camera, and you can't think about that.
Dale, that's yes, sir. Yeah.
George, ask her if she knows how many guys are on a football team.
So Dale has a question you want me to ask.
Hold on, let me.
Yeah, that's something I would say.
Dale beat a dick. It's great. But
Oh, my God.
this isn't the only one. Hold on, though.
Keep your focus. You can't think. There's so many more viewers watching. It just has to be you and the camera, and you can't think about that.
Dale, that's yes, sir. Yeah.
George, ask her if she knows how many guys are on a football team.
Dale has a question. He has a question you want me to ask you. He says, how do you think Deion Sanders will perform on the football team?
I gotta say, George Reba, quick,
Smooth.
That was
quick
smooth.
on his feet, didn't care.
Well,
Rolled with, maybe he's worked with Dale long enough that he
No,
understands.
I tell you, and I love George Reba to death. I mean, he is one of the. I said this when he retired. He is absolutely one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with in my life. But I don't give him a lot of props for saving me, being that quick to save me. There's not a day in hell he's going to say that to a woman. Because
he's a nice guy.
He's too nice a guy. But I remember the bit now, but I don't remember it when you set it up. But a lot of people said that. Well, George was so quick on his feet, he saved you. I went, well,
okay,
not exactly.
So you're not in favor of giving George any credit here. No.
But he did save me. I give him that.
But we're not done. We're not done.
That's yes, sir. Yeah.
George, ask her if she knows how many guys are on a football team.
Dale has a question. He has a question you want me to ask you. He says, how do you think Deion Sanders will perform on the football field?
Oh, gosh. I think he's fired up, one, because of last week, saying he had the worst game of his career. But two, how can he not be fired up for the Cowboys?
How's that, Dale? Is that all right?
No, George, ask her if she has any idea what they call the championship game at the end of the season.
Dale wants to know who's going to be in the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, you want me to say the Redskins? I'm not going to say the Redskins. Sorry.
How's that, Dale? Is that okay? Thank you, Melissa.
Good,
is that okay?
Good, George. Nice job. Appreciate it very much. You still with me here?
I'm sorry. This is live on the news?
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
it's a live hit. Like it's the game is that night. Maybe the Cowboys are playing the Redskins in Maryland that night.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
So let's do a pre.
We already did a pregame live shot. Even I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit taken aback that I would do that. At the same time, I think that was just simply a case I was ahead of my time.
Yes,
because everybody on talk shows are doing stuff much wilder than that.
Right.
I mean, Pat McAfee's making $1 gazillion doing wilder stuff. But it to me, and again, I realize this is not everybody's proverbial cup of tea here. I just found it obnoxiously funny, and obnoxious funny makes me laugh. And if it makes me laugh, I roll with it. The better one, I thought, did you have the one about when Delkus had the calendar, the Cowboys cheerleader calendar? That ring a bell at all? I walked in one night from Havana's, as I mentioned I went to on a regular basis.
I would hear from people that would see you there, smoking, maybe have a drink in your hand.
Yeah.
You'd be watching the news.
Right.
And be like, oh, hold on, guys.
Yeah, I'll
Set
be
the
back.
Cigar down.
Right, yeah.
Go up, do the news.
So it's only right across the street.
Right, and you'd be back and hanging with your boys again. Yeah.
I did it many times. That was crazy. But I walk in one night about 10 after the hour, and Delkus is in the bathroom. So when you come through these big swinging glass doors, they make a lot of noise, the wind and everything. So you couldn't really walk in without everybody knowing you're coming. So I'd walk in about 10 after 10. The bathroom door is right to my immediate left. As I walk by, Delkus jumps out and grabs me. And I scream like a little 4-year-old girl on the play. I mean, I just let out this blood-curdling scream because it scared the hell out of me. As they're in the middle of the newscast. And it was Izzy and John McKay. And boy, their heads just snap around like, what the hell happened? So everybody knows, and so when we start the exchange between weather and sports, and Delka says, you okay? I mean, you were screaming earlier. I said, well, yeah, you're kind of screaming. And he says, well, you weren't here earlier tonight because you're always off someplace. He goes, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders came in, and they brought in their calendar, and they signed it to me. And he's holding up this calendar, and he's flipping through the pages. And I said, oh, well, that explains why you were hiding out in the bathroom. And Delkus, who is one of the all-time great fake laughers. I mean, this time his head bounces off the desk. He laughs so hard, and he's screaming laughing, and his head just bounces off the desk, and he kind of staggers away. And I just, I did, the best part of it was I finally was able to pull that one off with a certain deadpan delivery to it. And my favorite follow-up to that was, the next day I just get swamped with, oh, God, that was the funniest thing ever, or you're outrageous. And this one guy says, who the hell do you think you are? Do you think it's appropriate to imply that the weather guy was masturbating during the show? And I swear to you, I wrote back, and this is all I wrote back, apparently.
That's awesome.
It got me in trouble, and it basically led to my sense of humor basically led to, in part, to an early retirement. But
really?
I wasn't. I just signed a new contract, in January of that year at 21. And I made this joke about women. And it was directed because, Channel 8, the station manager is a woman, the news director is a woman, all the producers of the shows are women, the editor, the director of the show is a woman. So we had all women. And it was during the debate. You don't know the joke I'm about to drop on you again and get fired for the 14th time?
I do not.
And so you remember the first debate with, so this was the first debate with.
The first Clinton?
No, this would have been Biden and Trump.
Oh,
right?
The only?
No.
Wait. When Biden
this
won.
Is 20, yeah.
Okay.
Wait a minute, this is 20.
You said 2021?
Yeah, it was 2021 we retired. Who would the debate been with? Yeah, it would have been, right?
Yeah.
It was about wages,
because Biden won.
Right. So this would have been like in
October. This isn't the recent Biden-Trump where Biden was like a...
October
No.
2020.
I'm trying to restructure this. How'd this come about? I think it was... Yeah, or maybe it was a different debate or something. But anyway, the first debate was a disaster. And the second debate was anchored by a woman. And she did a masterful job. And I'm on my patio. We're doing this during the COVID time. So I'm on my patio doing the show. And this woman was getting all these props. So that she really kept the debate on point and did a nice job, timing and everything. So Delkus, unprepared, because 99% of what we did was just off the cuff. And Delkus says to me, Dale, did you notice the difference in this debate than the previous debate, which I think was Chris Wallace, if I'm not mistaken. And Chris Wallace, he just got out of control. And I said, well, I've never doubted that if you want it done right, you put a woman in charge. There's just no question about it. If you want it done right, you put a woman in charge. I think it's fantastic when you got a woman in charge because the bottom line is they work cheaper and that saves more money for you and me.
Yeah.
And crickets. I thought, oh, okay, right. Well, Mike Leslie was shooting.
The camera's not moving.
Yeah, well, no. But Mike Leslie was shooting the live shot for me. And he backs up kind of chuckling, but he trips over the chair on our patio. And he falls right into my glass. I got like glass doors here. And now I just break out laughing. And he's about ready to do a header on the patio. Well, I say that line, and they work cheaper, Pete. That's more money for you and me, whatever. And Mike steps back, falls down, and I start howling as we're going off to the commercial break. I swear to you, I don't think anything about it. Yeah, okay. Next day,
Throwaway line.
Yeah, it's a throwaway, just boom. And
It's clearly not the way you think, blah, 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 blah. You
But
don't have to...
what I do find funny, I mean, several people did write. I've always been a big fan of Dale. I mean, I'm talking national writers. And, obviously Dale Hansen's a fraud. His liberalism is fake. I mean, he's obviously a misogynistic, racist pig and everything. And our news director, she calls. She goes, well, Dale, we're getting all this feedback and, it's blowing up on social media. And I said, yeah, I know. That's why I don't ever do that. And I said, would you like me to read you some of the other hate mail that I get from other commentaries? He goes, well, and I swear to you, well, no, Dale, those are pretty good. I mean, I said, wait, but you started by saying that you're upset because you're getting all this negative feedback about me.
But I also get negative feedback.
But when I got negative feedback about Michael Sam or whatever that you happen to agree with, the hell with social media, a bunch of people sitting in their basements, But now you're upset. And over the next couple of months, it went from, of course, start off with an apology. I said, well, of course I'll apologize, but you know what the reaction is going to be to the apology is that I'm joking, which exactly is what happened. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, I just said, okay, it's time to go. As I tell people, and I stand by this, they did not fire me. They did not push me out the door. But what they did do was shine a light on the exit sign at the end of the hall so I'd make sure I could see it. Not a single person from Tegna, the corporation I work, I signed a contract in January. And this is after all of this. I signed a new 3-year contract. And then I announced my retirement like 4 months later. Not a single person asked me why. Not a single person from Tegna.
Thought that's odd.
Yeah. And then when I retired in September of that year, and it was even kind of funnier, Brad Ramsey, the general manager, said, well, I'll just go today. And he said, well, no, it'll look like we're unhappy about your comments. Well, I think you are. And he goes, no, we gotta play this out. How about the end of the year? Would you work out the year? How about stay until September? So we played that game. And I decided, and I do regret this, I think, as I'm being obvious here, I never, ever left a station without burning every bridge behind me.
You wish you had.
I blew up every place I left, which was a mistake in many, many ways. But I decided, okay, for the one time in my life, I'm going to go out, peacefully and graciously. And I regret the hell. I just wish I'd have. The first time, think about this, Dan. Here I am, kind of a presence at Channel 8, 36 years, 35 years at that time. Here comes Brad Ramsey, the new general manager of the station. So they're taking him on a tour of the building to meet all the right people. He comes into my office. I stand up. I said, Brad, welcome to Channel 8. And he goes, yeah, my son wants to know why you're so critical of the Dallas Cowboys. That was the exact conversation. Hey, Brad, welcome to Channel 8. Yeah, my son wants to know why you're so critical of the Dallas Cowboys. And I did. I said, I'm sorry, what again? I said, my son's a big Cowboys fan, and he wants to know why you're so critical. He'll learn. And I turned around, and I sat down. And I'm fake typing, basically, on my computer. And he's still talking to me. And I swear, he's with Carolyn Mungo, and I swear to God, I turned around, I said, oh, I'm sorry, did you need something else? That was how I met this guy.
Yeah.
And he then tried to kill about every commentary I wrote. And one night I got in a big fight, arguing with him about a commentary that I wanted to do, and he wanted to kill it. And I said, well, that's not in your purview. I mean, I write, you suffer the consequences, whatever. And it was something to do with I think the wall or something, because they were all pretty social commentaries at that point.
Yeah.
And finally, I stomp out of his office, and I'm like, okay, I'm done writing for you. I'm not writing any more commercials. I'm driving down the road. He said, turn around. We're going to interrupt Jimmy Kimmel. You come back to the station. You can do your commentary right now. I said, what the hell? I said, no, I'm not going to interrupt Jimmy Kimmel to do a commentary about the wall. I said, no. He goes, well, okay, well, you do it whatever you want. You do it whatever you want. But every commentary, how about if we hold that for a couple weeks? How about if I think it'd play better, whatever. So finally I just said, oh, hell, I'm done. I just,
Okay, so I thought you had it written into your contract that you could do the contract.
yeah, I did, but I had to fight with him to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You still would have to.
it would, because believe it or not, I was trying as best I could, which is I'm not good at it. That when I stomped my foot, I got my way.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did.
I have been told
But
to
now
do.
I got to stomp my foot to do it. That gets a little bit old pretty fast.
Yeah, after a while, it's like, hey, I've been around. I think I know what I'm doing.
So I just didn't. Yeah, exactly.
That's the mindset.
I just didn't want to do the fight anymore.
I don't know if I need to tell you why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
You should trust me because I've been here a while and I've done a lot of these things.
Here's the best story, and boy, if this gets back to him, but I hope it does, because I even when he comes up to me after the years go by, we shake. Hey, Dale, how's everything going? And the last night of my show, the last show I ever did, I wrote a farewell commentary, and it was 3 minutes and 14 seconds long, which seemed kind of long to me. So I read it to several people, and they go, "No, my God, Dale, you're wrapping up 50 years in broadcasting. You're wrapping up 41 years in Dallas. If it is 3:14, that's the fastest 3:14 I've ever sat through." So I said, okay. And the people I respect, yeah, so I do it. Well, they wouldn't allow anybody to come because of COVID. They wouldn't allow anybody from the station to come for the farewell. I had nobody there. And as people pointed out to me, oh, yeah, you're so popular at Channel 8, none of your coworkers even showed up because they were told they couldn't come. And I was allowed to have like 6 people. It was my wife and a couple friends or whatever. I walked back out, and they had a little reception. There were like 8 of us, counting Brad Ramsey and Carolyn Mungo. Had a little tiny reception out on the patio. And I'm sitting there having a drink. Brad walks up and says down to me and goes, so Sean told me that commentary, your closing commentary was 3 minutes and 14 seconds long. And I went, yeah, that's what it timed out at. And he goes, well, that's the last time for that. And got up and walked away. Okay. As I'm getting ready to leave, he then says to me, and this is my favorite story, and nobody's ever heard this before, by the way. This is he said, we got you a gift. He said, but I'm sorry, I left it in my office. And he said, I'll send it to you tomorrow. I said, that's fine. No problem. About 2 weeks go by. I got no gift. So I call him, and I said, I'm just curious, Carolyn. I said, I don't want to be the cheap guy here, but I said, Brad said they had a gift for me for my 38 years at Channel 8. And he said he'd sent it to me about 2 weeks ago. I haven't got it. He goes, oh, let me check it out. And Brad sent me a note and said, yeah, I'm sorry, Dale. I had it on my desk. I forgot about it. I mailed it to you. And it was a gift certificate to Javier's, where I had been known to smoke all their cigars and drink their Mexican martinis. So I then go into Javier's, and I go up to Julio with my gift certificate. And I said, yeah, by the way, I'm just curious. When did they get this? He goes, they got that like 2 days ago. I said, so they didn't buy it like 3 weeks ago? He goes, no. I told him that would be fine, that you'd really like that. And I think it was Monday.
No appreciation.
No, it was they were. I think they were, quite honestly, I think they were.
But you didn't get sued by your former employer.
Not yet.
No.
If they hear this. They hear this show, I might. But
some people.
But
have.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't a good finish. But then, like everybody that does know me, they said, well, yeah. As bad as you're trying to make this out to be now, well, let's compare that to Minnesota, Omaha, and Channel 4. Oh, well, it's a walk in the park.
Set the bar.
Oh, I used to go out, and they had to call the fire department to put out the flames.
I love it.
Well, Dale, we've done quite a bit of time here.
I've been known to fill some time, Dan.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad you came.
Can you run for governor?
Well, when I do get invited to the
run for
occasional
office.
podcast, yeah. That was a thought years and years ago. I was asked to run in what was this been like 2018, I think 2016 maybe. I get this call from Austin. They wanted to meet with me about running for office, and I'm not going to run for office, but it's flattering, So we go to, did I mention I went to Evansville? And they got like 4 of these top Democratic operatives. They said, we think you'd just be perfect. And I'm thinking, I don't think I'm qualified to be in the Senate, and maybe in the House of Representatives. I don't know, but I'm not sure. I'd be governor. No, that's I'm not good. So they're telling me how good I am, and boy, we got to get you out there, and boy, you preach, boy, the way you preach, it'd be fan. I said, so what is it you think I should run for? And they said, we think you'd be perfect for land commissioner. And I said to her, I go, I don't even know what the hell that is. Yeah. I said, you want me to run? Do we have a land commissioner? And they go, yeah, it's George P. Bush, the grandson or whatever. I said, wait a minute. You want me to run for land commissioner, and I have no idea what it is.
And no one does.
Against one of the Bush kids?
Right.
In Texas?
Just get your ass kicked.
I think I'm going to take a large pass on that. And I got several emails and letters for the next few days like, no. And I do think, as arrogant as this may well sound, but I think there's some validity to it. Because I do a lot of speaking for Democrats. I've already got several booked up leading into this election. I do quite a bit of speaking on the Democratic circles. And I think they wanted my voice on the campaign trail. Because when I look at politicians today, I'd love to debate almost any one of them. I'd like to follow any one of them, or better yet, have them follow me on a debate stage or on a speaking, because they're just horrible. Nobody says anything. They're all following the consultant's guidelines. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel or somebody did a bit the other night, and they're just showing these guys just doing this weird stuff. They're just holding up signs and, hey, I just finished up. I'm having a Slurpee because I'm a 7-Eleven guy. I mean, just trying. They don't even know how to be people. And I think they wanted me to bring some of that energy, which I think I could have done, but not at the risk of getting 8% of the vote. I get George P. Bush to be land commissioner. But yeah, it's unfortunately, Dan, when I don't get many opportunities anymore, so I kind of have that word vomit comes flying once I get a microphone in front of me nowadays. So.
No,
we love it.
That's fortunate for us. Do you want to just throw away the rest of our show that we were going to do? I do want to read today's birthdays.
Let's do that.
Just because we do have viewer mail birthdays. People will send us in their birthday, and they like to hear it, Dale. So, here
Happy
it is.
birthday.
Thank you.
I will at least do that, and we can close out the show.
Yeah, this will all still be here Monday.
Or you want to do some news?
I don't
care.
No, I don't.
This has been great.
A lot of teacher-student sex. What do you think of that, Dale? Seems to be a problem.
What's that going on back in your day?
What was that? What are you talking about?
Teacher-student relations.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Real problem.
Was that a big deal when you were growing up?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. Luckiest boy in the world.
Yeah. We did have all the way through my school. We were all in one building. I mean, I went to kindergarten in the basement basement room of where I graduated from high school. There, and it was all one building, and we had all the old teachers. I mean, I had a teacher like in fourth grade that taught my dad, Ruby Bailey. I mean, she's like 98 or something. And then as I got to be a senior in high school, that's when they had this whole turnover, and we had 4 or 5 just drop dead 24-year-old, 23-year-old teachers. But not a one of them hit on me when I was there, and I'm still kind of pissed off about it, quite honestly.
All right, I got a few of these. Some of our viewers or listeners, dear Uncle Meat Cutter, I'm writing to you today to inquire about having my birthday read on the pod. Let's see. My leaders. Oh, he sent us the Donovan interviewing. What was the Sanford and Son guy?
Damon Wilson.
Damon Wilson. Yeah, he wanted us to play that. We don't have time. His leaders are the Beehive.
Are you sure?
Jake's. Do you want to? Jake's sudden adoption of Julie Dobbs' squawk laugh and Dan's dog making their way on the air. I love the education segments.
Ernst didn't go out on Friday night until after Sanford and Son.
I love the education segments that Jake has been doing, as I am an educator. It's frustrating, but it's good to know what's going on. That's from JT Kane.
Big election tomorrow. GCISD School Board. I'm block walking tonight.
So you talk about guys. Jake's really into that too.
What's that?
Politics.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to because the school boards have been taken over, and
oh my gosh, yes.
he's found that they have been unwilling to engage in any kind of discussion or debate. I am
morphing into the typical old man. I watch all the cable news way too much. But I start my day with MS Now. I go to CNN, and I do watch Fox a lot. And I have a very simple theory, because a lot of my liberal buddies are like, why the hell are you watching Fox? I said, I want to know what the argument is. I want to hear all sides. So I listen to Fox every day, 3-4 times a day, until they lie about something, and I've never made it to the 60-second mark yet, but I'm working my way there. So, someday I'm bound to. I got to try one joke on you to leave with us. It's just a new joke I've just written, because we got a new dog. My wife has always wanted a golden doodle, and so we got this golden doodle, got kind of reddish, curly hair, and so Chris is all excited, and we got it from this adoption, Doodle Dandies, I think it's called. And the actual name of the dog is Archie Manning. And they thought, when Chris applied for it, they said, well, this would be great, And Chris was kind of excited, thinking, So we have this dog, and his given name is Archie Manning. And we picked him up a couple of days ago. It turns out he's not quite as good a dog as we thought he was going to be, so I call him Arch.
I love it.
I really like that joke. I might have to tweak it a little bit, but
two more. Dear Fuhrer of the front bottom.
He's just not quite. Think about it. He's just not quite as good as we thought he was good. All right, I'll get it.
It's a sports joke. It's deep.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of layers.
It's got. I like jokes that
yeah.
make you think just a little bit.
My buddy Blake, not the mustached one, is celebrating his Brad Doherty birthday on Saturday, camping in Joshua Tree.
Ooh.
His leaders are garage bowls, John Madden's hotel towels. Ooh, you have to tell Blake, Dale, about that. Running the option with Eric Crouch on NCAA football, Foodie CK weekend check. And wondering if Dan and Blake enjoyed the oysters at training camp in Oxnard. This is from DF Clayton.
Sorry, Clayton.
And hello, Uncle Pussyman. Please wish Chris Beard an early happy birthday for 5'2". Not the bad Chris Beard. His leaders are Shin Soo Chu and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, eulogizing Nipsey Hussle on Twitter.
It's true.
Nipsey Hussle.
It's true. The former president of Iran had a Twitter account, and when the rapper Nipsey Hussle died, Mahmoud paid his respects.
Okay, so let's at least follow up on one thing in there for Dale Hansen. The story of John Madden's hotel towels.
Look, this isn't cool, because he probably knows John Madden.
Do you?
Or has met him personally
I met him.
a number of times.
You just met him.
I had a buddy who
I don't know him. Didn't know him.
I had a buddy who worked at the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas and said that John Madden would stay there all the time when he came here, and that he was super, super kind man, but that when he would go to clean out his room, John Madden would wipe his ass when he took a shit with towels, and he would leave the towels in the bathroom. He just didn't use toilet paper.
Well,
and then other than that, he was a great guest, but that he
probably, when you're as big as John Madden, he probably couldn't reach around behind to grab his ass.
It probably started like that, and he said, "Why not just do this
I'm
from
getting
now
real
on?"
close to that. I have never thought about it. I think my wife would kill me if I did that.
You just take the big
you
towel
get so
and start
big. I mean,
flopping.
an arm that has to go around a 48-inch waistline sometimes just doesn't reach the focal point. Let's say it doesn't get to the focal point.
Get a towel and start treating yourself like a bowling ball shine.
Well,
It's got the front and the back.
I have the tracksuit tier shorts that I still wear that have shall we say softened in color.
Yeah.
And then I have, just in case I end up in the hospital today, I'm going to wear this pair, and I have to make some conscious decisions about where I'm driving just in case, just in case.
All right, let's do Today in History with Dale.
Qualis Roofing.
See if he remembers any of these things.
Okay.
On this
It's Friday,
day
May 1st.
in history.
On this day in 1776, German philosopher Adam Weishaupt. Do you know who that is?
I should, but I don't.
Says here he founded the secret society of the Illuminati.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dale's probably the closest person we know.
On this day
He
in
met Ellen.
1952. Were you alive at that time?
Not
1952? Mr. Potato Head
Were you in the Illuminati, Dale?
was introduced by the toy company Hasbro. Mr. Potato Head.
Seriously? In 1852?
No, 19, I said.
Oh, I thought you said 18. I said, wait a minute. Yeah. No.
Okay.
It was just
No,
pieces,
I was,
too,
I
right?
was, yeah, I was alive in 1952.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm 77.
I don't know math.
Do the math.
But
Yeah.
I'm not good at
1948.
that. Okay. It's a little 4-year-old Dale, little one of them hats with the beanie propeller on it.
Yeah, I did.
Potato.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This
Jack's in
replaced
his pocket.
this replaced the actual potato that kids
Right.
had to play with.
Just needed because of the famine.
That was developed in Ireland.
Let's see where Dale was on this day in 1991, because I remember this day.
1991.
Certain sports things make me remember where I was. Nolan Ryan, at age 44, throws his 7th no-hitter.
Oh, great story for you, very quickly.
Same night that Ricky Henderson
Yeah.
breaks the all-time stolen base record.
He throws the
You
no-hitter.
have to take your desk,
It was on a Tuesday night, and I'm doing my radio show for KRLD up at Tony Roma's, and I'm driving back to the station, and I'm listening to the game because Wednesday at noon I had Nolan Ryan scheduled to be the speaker for a luncheon I was doing for Dallas Can Academy, and as I'm driving back to the station, I'm hearing Nolan Ryan finish up his no-hitter, and I'm incredibly excited because I've got Nolan Ryan. And then the next morning, the phone rings, and it's the great John Blake, and he goes, we have a problem. I said, not a day in hell, you're canceling. I said, I've got hundreds of people coming for this luncheon. And he goes, no, Nolan's going to do it, but would it be okay if we move it to the Marriott Hotel where you're having the luncheon for his press conference? And I'm like, oh, my God, Steve Bakowitz from the Marriott will go nuts, which he did. And this is the greatness of Nolan Ryan. He walks in, does this press conference, doesn't eat the lunch. We do the whole lunch. I said, Nolan's doing a press conference with all the national writers that flew in and everything. And then I walk down there and I interrupt the press conference. I said, Nolan, we need you. He walks off the stage, comes in, does about 20 minutes, takes questions, answers with everybody. And then he's signing a few autographs. And this guy, the one guy in the crowd says, how do I get one of those baseballs? And I said, you have to be a $5,000 sponsor of my golf tournament. And 3 people jumped up and said, we're in. We sold $15,000 on the spot. Nolan signs the baseballs, gives it back to him, and then walks out. And the line that Helen Bryant wrote in the paper, I just stood there for about a minute or so, and I just went, let's see Scott Murray top that. The day after his 7th no-hitter, he did a charity event for me at the Marriott.
I
for
love
Dallas
the
Can.
competition.
Yeah.
Did Anchorman hit too close to home? Like, did you watch that and you're like, hey, whoa.
Yeah, no, that was
whoa,
a documentary.
Right.
Yeah. Now, that was Chip Moody in a nutshell there. I think that whole thing was based on Chip Moody. And,
I've actually heard someone say that.
about Chip? Or
Yeah.
About, yeah. Chip Moody was, the camera loved Chip Moody. But he'd have been hard-pressed to find City Hall without a GPS system.
Not really in the weeds.
No, but he could, man, when he was younger and healthy, man, he controlled that camera. I mean, he was staggering, but he was that close to Ted Baxter. That was always the reference we gave him. He had this is absolutely true. He had a picture of Elvis and a picture of Clint Eastwood on his little cubicle wall that we had, and it's signed, to Chip, best Elvis, to Chip, And I thought, God, that's incredible. So on my sainted mother's grave, I said, how the hell did you get those? He goes, what do you mean? I said, where the hell did you ever meet meet Clint Eastwood or Elvis Presley to get an autograph? He goes, oh, I didn't get their autograph. I just signed it because it looks better with an autograph. He signed it himself on his wall.
Most people aren't Dale. They're not going to ask.
To Chip. Best wishes, Elvis.
Do you make them different?
Your friend, Elvis Presley.
It can't look like the same.
What? I mean,
Chase your dreams.
I could do Chip stories forever, but Chip, and I love the guy, but oh my God, he was crazy. I mean, he was, and the cheapest man I ever knew in my life. The cheapest man I ever knew in my life.
On this day in 1996, Ross Perot Jr. buys the Dallas Mavs. for $125 million.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
A sports team would never be sold for a higher amount. Don Carter paid $12 million. Seems like owning a sports team is a good financial
He could have
deal.
bought Alaska for
It's
that
ridiculous.
amount.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I remember when Nolan Ryan, another little callback from him. I remember I said this on the air. This is how brilliant I was. When Nolan Ryan became the first player in Major League Baseball to get a $1 million contract, I said, finally we found where the cap is. Because nobody will go higher, obviously. I mean, how could you possibly make more money than that?
Right.
And it was about, 3 weeks later, and I think Ricky Henderson got $2 million or something, and they're off.
It was really funny how that worked, too. Because once you got to $1 million,
Yeah.
or at least if in radio, and probably TV, too, if you get to $1 million, you'll then get to $1,050,000.
Right.
But no, in baseball, it was like, all right, next one is $2 million.
Yeah.
Like right away.
Yeah.
You can afford that.
Well, I did this thing.
Lying to the players.
I did this thing on my podcast, a Dallas Dialogue with Dale.
I'm glad you said that. 'Cause
But I did this about Kyle Tucker, and he gets like $30 million a year from the Dodgers, and I don't understand the business model because there's not a person in America that buys a ticket because Kyle Tucker's in town. I mean, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Bob Gibson, Stan Musial. People would buy tickets when they show up in your town. I mean, even Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to buy a ticket. Who the hell sits at home and goes, hey, son, guess what? I've got tickets for the Kyle Tucker game. And he makes $30 million a year. And I'm like, where the hell did this come from? But Mark Cuban, when we had him on the deal, was talking about this. It's not about what you make. The whole purchase of buying a team is the inflationary aspect of what it becomes when you sell it. And he said, everybody says, well, the owners are going broke. Oh, we're going broke. Baseball in particular. Oh, we can't keep doing this. And they point out, as Tom Green pointed out, open up the books. Show us the books. One, they're not going broke. And more importantly, they buy a team for $100 million and they sell it 5 years later, for $1 billion. I mean, Jerry Jones buys that's the most amazing one to me. Jerry Jones buys the Cowboys for somewhere in that $150 million range. The Washington football team sold for like $1.4 billion. There's like 2,000 to Danny Snyder. And we're in Wichita Falls, and I said to Jones, if I give you $2 billion, would you sell the team? He goes, Dale, I wouldn't sell them for $5 billion. I said, well, how stupid are you? I mean, you bought them for $150 million, and you wouldn't even consider $5 billion? And we're all kind of laughing like, well, you're not quite the businessman, what? No, now what are they, 14 billion?
Yeah.
13, 14?
Yeah, who knows? What you can find out when it gets on the open market. We didn't know, until the Clippers were forced to sell, wait.
And it was I think it was grieving Cuban Bull, but they said all these owners in basically every sport, they're always whining about how they're struggling to make ends meet. Fine, sell the team, put it up on the market. Who can't sell? I mean, there's always a list. There's 2 or 3 people bidding to get into a losing proposition.
People would buy the Browns for.
No, Tom knows a little bit about money here. Tom knows a little bit of, as a financial advisor. But I'm saying it looks stupid on the surface. You look at the Dodgers. I don't care. Where's that money coming from? But George Bush did it. I got a little bit of a blowback from him. The first year the George Bush group bought the Rangers, they had to pay a $10 million fine for collusion the previous year. Mm-hmm. And they weren't involved. And I got George Bush live on the air, and he said, well, we managed to break even, but he said, it was kind of an unfair deal. We had to pay the $10 million fine for collusion, and we weren't involved in that. But since we were the owners, we had to pay $10 million, but we still managed to break even. The very next year, I've got George Bush on for opening day, and I said, so how are the Rangers doing financially? He said, well, we managed to break even. And I said, so where'd the $10 million go?
Right. The year before you said you only broke even because of that.
Well, you said last year you had to pay the $10 million fine that you managed to break even. This year you didn't have to pay a $10 million fine.
So clearly you're
and
in the
you
red.
still broke even.
Yeah, black.
And he got little, because he wasn't expecting. And that's
because every owner every year says we somehow
we're struggling. We lost a little.
Exactly
with your effort.
break even.
With your effort.
We exactly
We should have had you asking the questions about weapons of mass destruction.
That's one of those. You had a good one with who was it? The owner of the Stars and the Rangers.
Tom Hicks.
Tom Hicks.
Oh, Tom Hicks, yeah.
You once had him on. I think he's the one who told you. Unfortunately, it worked when we spent big on the Stars.
Yeah.
Because then we won.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that worked.
Yeah, but I said
that's why he was like, the Rangers, if we get more fans, we'll spend more.
Yeah,
like,
supposedly,
but
they may. How much would if the Cowboys are worth $14 billion today, and they haven't won in 30 years? How much are they worth if they actually won something? Maybe it would change. A buddy of mine.
I always wonder, what if they didn't win early?
Oh,
if he just bought them, and he was like the Browns owner.
As you and I argued about at the ticket one day. Yeah,
right, but they did win early.
And
certainly it wasn't because of Jerry. But
this is a weird number. Buddy of mine, Larry Barnes, I think you guys
might.
with
the pom-poms.
The NFL just played their 60th Super Bowl. And I should have known this number, but it still kind of jumps out at me. They just played their 60th Super Bowl. The first 30, the Cowboys played in 8 of them and won 5. Out of the first 30 Super Bowls, the Cowboys played in 8 of them and won 5, and in the last 30 years, none. 0. I mean, it's a staggering number. And I'm sitting there going, as I said to you that day at the ticket, he's not the Browns. The Cowboys are not the Cleveland Browns. But Jerry Jones has made them into the Cleveland Browns. I still argue that. It's just ridiculous what this team has done. I was laughing at Stephen A. Smith the other day because I think the Cowboys are legitimate Super Bowl contenders now. And Stephen A. Smith is like, shut up. They'll figure out a way to screw it up. And I think, unfortunately, they will. I mean, I like their draft. I like this Caleb Downs kid. I've always been a supporter of Dak Prescott, not to the extent that some people think. But I think for the most part he was fine. And last year he was outstanding. C.D. Lamb drops too many passes for me for $34 million a year, but he's still very, very good. But they always manage to mess it up, and I don't see why we should think they won't do it again this year.
Coach Shoddy.
And on that cheery note,
this day in Dumb Zone history, we got anything?
Just in 2023, Jake sprained his wrist playing flag football. 3 years later, he's breaking it. Nice symmetry.
Hanging it up Sunday. The one team. We're playing Sunday, and then we're done.
Oh.
Are they going to have a ceremony?
Yeah. They're going to give me a gift card 2 weeks from now.
I'll be yours.
Jake explained his dream in 2025. It's to be a detective with no family allowed to do speed.
Yeah, I think it was from True Detective, but the show True Detective, but that's a very appealing character in any show. The dogged detective not bound by a family. They've left him, of course.
Yeah. Well, you were too into your job.
Love with the streets.
Birthdays today. We have Wes Welker, 45.
Before his time a little bit.
Chet Holmgren is 24.
Problem.
Miles Sanders, how old would you think he is?
30?
Yeah, you're right, 29.
Yeah.
I would have thought he was a lot older. He's just been around. It just feels like we've known Miles Sanders.
Is he still a Cowboy?
He was a Cowboy last year, like for 100 yards. Curtis Martin, 53.
My favorite. Marcus
Stroman is 35. He is now my current lowest War Games winner of the year. War Games, Dale, is if your birthday is on this day. The baseballreference.com will show everybody's war on that day. And if you're the highest war, you're the War Games winner for that day.
It's a fun little game.
It's just such great fun. Marcus Stroman, 21.7 War Game winner.
Oh, man, that's
Tyler
fun.
Sagan.
Dale, Byron Stewart is 70. He was Coolidge in The White Shadow.
Really?
Certainly
Love
you watched
that
The
show.
White Shadow.
Yes, vaguely, yeah.
Ray Parker Jr. is 72.
The Ghostbusters.
Big fan of the Ghostbusters over here.
I am.
Wes Anderson, the movie director, is 57.
Okay, number one.
Big Soroy guy.
Yeah.
Don't go see a Wes Anderson movie with Donovan.
Nah.
Yeah, warn your black friend.
Not a fan.
Are you? We're heading to white people land, big time.
What was that one I saw? Moonlight Kingdom?
Moonrise Kingdom.
I walked out of there with Donovan, and he was like, looking at me like, because I was talking to Corby. I'm like, that was a good movie. Yeah, it was really good. It was cool how they, and Donovan's like, Were we in the same movie?
Yeah, I think he still has Spinal Tap as his lowest ranked film of all time.
Yeah.
That Donovan watched, but Moonrise Kingdom is a medalist.
Oh, God.
Tim McGraw is 59. That's Tug
Is he
McGraw's
really?
son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Julie Benz,
Dexter.
54. Let's see. Nicholas Braun is 38.
Oh, Succession boy?
That's Greg the Egg.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You do Succession?
I love Succession.
Making
Yeah.
tomlets.
Which one is he, though? I don't know which
tall,
character.
The tall,
skinny
goofy
Greg.
cousin Greg.
Can't make a Tom
Oh,
movie
yeah.
without
Oh, really?
Greg.
And he's how old? 39?
38, yeah.
38?
The one that Tom would berate. Tom Wamsgams. And our Dumb Zone birthday of the day for
Whoa.
Blake. James Murray, 50.
Murr?
Murr from Impractical Jokers. The worst show you'll ever see on TV, Dale. Don't ever turn it
Well,
on.
Anthony Davis's hadn't started yet.
I've just about watched every show there is on TV over the last 4 years. So
Really?
I need-
Retirement will do that to you?
Yeah, well, it did it to me. I got one of those. My wife got me one of those watches you're supposed to wear to count your steps and everything. And I wore it, and 10 days later it said, "Whenever you're ready to get started." I'm like, I don't think this thing's working here. You know, I mean, it didn't count the 4 steps.
Dude,
from my
I
bed
swear to
my
God,
recliner.
why not right now? Like everybody's, you can blend in if you're not different, as we talked about early in your career. What if right now you started the stand-up career? You're the retired comic. You're like I'm the retired guy who now started stand-up. By the time you're Trump's age, you'll be selling out arenas.
Yeah, I'll be selling out arenas. You know, I do. I still go. We went to see Nate Bargatze, who I think is incredibly funny, at the American Airlines Center. But I don't like a show at the American Airlines Center for comedians. I love concerts there.
Yeah.
But I had a decent ticket, not a great ticket, but I'm in that first level deck, whatever, and I couldn't follow it. I saw Jim Jeffries. You know who that is?
Yeah.
I love him. He's filthy, and I saw him at the Majestic, and I'm sitting like in the third row, and now I got the whole facial expressions. I got the whole bit. But I still go to as many of those shows and concerts as I can. I just love that kind of stuff, but. Comedians, like I said, that is a hard thing. And, I go on Netflix and I watch a bunch of them, and I'm 5-10 minutes in. God, this guy's struggling. This isn't funny to me. But he got a Netflix special, so he must be funny to some people.
Yeah.
Which is the other thing about comedians, and much like music. I mean, my fascination with Rod Stewart, and people just look at me like glazed over eyes.
Yeah.
I did a deal with KVIL years ago, and I played they call it Dusty Attics. And one of the songs was by Bob Dylan, and I just love Bob Dylan. And so you play 10 of your favorite songs in the course of this hour. And my 14-year-old daughter's in the back seat, and I'm playing it on the cassette. And, oh, my God, here comes Dylan, like a Rolling Stone or something. I'm just going nuts. And my 14-year-old daughter just leans forward and goes, "So you like this shit?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's Dylan, for God's sake. It's Dylan, And what makes the world go round and what makes people laugh? I don't have a problem with that, but so many people do nowadays. I'm not going to go to that concert because his politics are bad. Oh, what the hell? If the music's good, I'm going. I might draw the line. I probably won't go to the Michael Jackson concert.
I was going to say, what do you stand on?
But I'll probably watch it when it comes out on Amazon. Sure. I'll probably watch it because I like
Insane Clown Posse.
Let me ask you about Nate Bargatze, because we went to a show there.
Thanks, Mike.
Did you go to the greatest Nate Bargatze time? We went to a 3 o'clock freaking.
Oh no! I went to like the 8 o'clock show or something.
Well, we got in late. You
went to a 3 o'clock afternoon show.
He put out a 3 o'clock show.
Right.
We went. It was awesome. I'm home at 8.
Think about how
that's my dream.
If I'm not mistaken, when he did the American Airlines Center, he did one like at 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then the next day he did another one. I mean, he did like 3
a 7 p.m. Yeah.
7 p.m. And
he had sold out the 2 nights, so he added an afternoon.
I think I understand. Although I look at Springsteen, I mean, it's just staggering to me. I mean, if that's what a wrinkled up prune looks like, prune my ass. I mean,
Is he hot?
I would love to be that prune. I mean, he looks great.
Nice.
He played for 2 hours and 52 minutes, and there's no stopping. I mean, once he walks on stage, it's a very political show now. This new tour. He walks on stage and he does this long commentary that obviously I happen to agree with.
Yeah.
And then it just, boom, they hit and they do war. What's it good for? And off he goes. 2 hours and 52 minutes later, he says goodnight. And it was just staggering. He wore a vest. He always wears a vest now and a shirt and tie. And he took off the vest and he just completely soaked. He went to the back of the arena, did a song all the way in the back for those people. It was the most amazing show I think I've ever seen. I mean, I'm serious. I think it's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. But that makes sense to me. You know, the music is the music. I mean, the crowd's going to respond when you play Born in the USA. I mean, they just are. You're a comedian, and now this is all new material, and it may and may not work. I called Ingvall one time after a banquet that I did where I just died. I mean, I thought this was a great, great bit that I had. And I just died. I mean, nothing. And Ingvall's line, which saved me, he said, hey, welcome to my world. He said, I play in Chicago, I die. I go to St. Louis, I kill. I go to Omaha, I die. I go to Kansas City, I kill again. I mean, he said, there's no explanation for what works with a comedian. But the musicians that we were talking about earlier, well, they're kind of locked in. You play this, we're with you. Now, you start bringing out that new material, that gets a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
But still, that's why I just can't tell you enough how much I have respect for these comedians. But I don't know how you go on stage and tell jokes for an hour and come back 2 hours later and do it again.
Crazy.
Coming back and playing Born in the USA, no, okay, I get that. You play it. But you have to sell that joke. You got to have the timing down. You got to have the delivery. You've got to have the enthusiasm. You got to have the right facial expression.
You have to make the audience believe you're telling it for the first time ever.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Every
absolutely key.
That.
I just thought of this. No, thought of it. Hell, you rehearsed it for a month before you got on stage to do it. That is such a skill. It's just an absolute skill that it's hard to replicate. But I study it, and I love it. I try it as best I can.
Born on this day now dead, Kate Smith.
Oh, man.
Kate Smith.
Canary in the coal mine.
Is a WHL.
Correct.
We have a thing that we call on the show WHL. It's called Why Hillary Lost.
Why Hillary Lost, yeah.
And I feel like nudging Dale, putting the spotlight on the exit sign is a WHL. We canceled Kate Smith. Kate Smith had a statue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
I believe at Yankee Stadium.
Because that's where they would play the Kate Smith, God Bless America.
Yeah. You know about the old singer woman, right?
Yeah.
But I guess in the early 1900s, she sang a song. It became uncovered around this time called That's Why Darkies Are Born.
God.
But now that's a very funny title. We all think that's hilarious.
Shocking funny.
Now, the recently passed away David Allen Coe reprised that.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
So That's Why Darkies Are Born was originally sung, I think, by Paul Robeson, who was a civil rights leader. He was black.
Yeah.
Roby.
Yeah.
And it was almost like
Robes.
It was like someone
it was satirizing racism.
It was like someone has to pick the cotton, someone has to do this,
But then they dug
that's why Darkies are born.
They dug it up 70 years later.
Right. So she had sung that too because it was a very popular song of her young life day.
You asked me why I didn't run for office. I wrote a speech, and I didn't talk about this for years, but I wrote a speech my senior year of high school, and the title of the speech was, "Let's face the facts. Negroes are just plain troublemakers." Now, I used all the proper language of the time. We had other kids in my class who were dropping the N-word in their speech. It was a civil rights assignment for one of my all-time favorite teachers named Frank Weiland. Bill Maher said this recently, and I'm with him on this. And this is where I split with a lot of my liberal friends, especially my liberal friends of color. Bill Maher actually said on his show that if you were white and rich in 1795, you would have owned slaves. And everybody, oh my God, no, there's no way. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, you probably would. I mean, if that's all you know, if that's the way you're born, from the time you come flying out, here's the slave taking care of you, here's the slaves working in the field. I am one of the few dyed-in-the-wool, hard-ass liberals who do not blame people for what they used to do 30, 40, 50, 90 years ago. I just don't. I'm intrigued by it. I like to think I would have been smarter, but I know for a fact that I wasn't. I wrote this speech saying, hey, if James Meredith, they don't want you in Mississippi, find another school. My God, there's 100 to choose from. If they don't want you to sit at the lunch counter at Lester Maddox's restaurant in Georgia, find another restaurant. What the hell difference does it make? There's no difference between the front of the bus and the back of the bus. It still gets to the same street corner. I mean, I believed it. That's what my parents taught me. That's what my grandparents taught me. Hell, that's what my football coach taught me. I changed, obviously. I learned. And as Frank Weiland said to me, I'm going to give you an A- because of the delivery and the writing, but I hope you've learned that shit better as you get older, and I did. But I really get tired of this argument of digging up something that somebody wrote or believed or said 80, 90 years ago because...
Well, especially when it was not that. It was a tongue-in-cheek song. It was
it
was a song. She was also a civil rights leader.
As many people do. Read the second verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. Nobody ever sings the second verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. Look that up.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah. See how proud you are now to salute the flag for the Star-Spangled Banner. Because there's a lot of racist stuff in that second verse.
Died on this day, still dead. We have Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, no.
Randy the Macho Man.
Yeah.
Familiar with this? These people like wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
These people.
You people.
Well, I did that show with Kevin Von Erich.
Okay, of course.
And we
went down to San Antonio, and we did a couple of Dallas, Fort Worth. I did 3 or 4 shows with Kevin Von Erich. It was a riot. It was.
Look what happened to him.
Yeah.
He's in Hawaii.
Oh, is he?
No, he lives south.
Oh, I thought he was one of the dead ones.
He lives south of San
Antonio.
Probably
going to be right.
The odds were.
I actually said to Von Erich on one of those shows, I said, so you lived in Hawaii for like 30 years and then you decided to move back to Texas. I said, how many blows to the head did you actually take?
Yeah, right.
And, who is swimming in the oceans off the coast of Hawaii going, I'd like to live in New Braunfels again. I mean, I just, get me close to Fredericksburg. Just one more. I mean, it's just a quaint little town.
Also died on this day, Stanley Weston. He invented the G.I. Joe action figure. Little Dale. I could see Dale in the sandbox.
Another cool gift. Yeah.
Ruth Buzzy.
Oh, really?
Lived in DFW. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I ran into her like 10 or 15 years ago at Armin's in Southland.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy, who was on Laughing.
Yeah. Oh, no, she was fabulous, I thought.
But died on this day in 2025.
2025?
Yeah, way to go,
God, how old? She had to be 100 years old, wasn't
88 years old.
That's all? Really?
Yeah.
Well, how old was she when she was doing that show?
And that's what happened on this day.
People looked older in
history.
the past.
Well, her makeup, she was the little old lady on the park bench.
Yeah.
God, she was hilarious.
So, are you, and we're going to say goodbye now, but are you aware that your Michael Sam commentary was made into a wonderful song?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've heard that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to use it to end the show. But
okay.
If you hadn't heard it, I was going to play it for you. But
no, I heard it.
I've tried to track that guy down. He's brilliant.
I guess.
Look, without you, there's no him.
That's right. I made his career. Right?
Well, thanks to Dale Hansen.
How about it?
Dale Hansen.
Tom, I appreciate you
Check
inviting me
out
over here today.
you have a podcast as well.
I do. It's wherever, like I say, everybody asks me, hell if I know where they are. I don't know anything about podcasts. But it's out there. Yeah, I just do it once a month just to kind of keep my toes in. I love doing it. It's fun.
Closing remarks with Tom, too.
Hell yeah.
It's just thanks for inviting Dale. So when Tom first reached out to us, I assumed, they live in Waxahachie. Tom is a man of industry and wealth. I'm like, a fellow animal lover, and he probably just knows Dale. I thought you guys were good friends, so if he's inviting his friend over, and then when I got here today, he's like, "Oh no, I just emailed him," and
I thought
he said okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke at first.
I'm like, he said okay? Yeah. Just some random guy emails like, "Hey, you want to come over to my house because let's hang out." Dan and Jake.
Number one,
over?
It's Waxahachie.
Yeah, it's not
like you invited me to come to Frisco, or. God forbid, Mesquite. I mean, if it's Mesquite, I'd have to check it out. But
and you didn't offer him anything, no money. Like we got the Dale deal.
Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Validation.
Whatever he needs, we'll make sure he has.
No, it was great.
So,
I think we'll strike up a friendship here because I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by his emus. My wife would love to see the emus. So.
Anytime.
Ride it on over.
Can I ask Dale one question? I know we're short on time.
No.
But, over the years, of course, you hear a lot of stories, and you became close with Troy Aikman when he first came to town, right?
Yeah.
So my one question is, did you see the potential at that time when he was still playing, you were getting to know him and so on personally, the potential of him being one of the best broadcasters, in my opinion, in not just football history, but in sports history?
And this is exactly what happened. Aikman is toward the end of his career. He did the show with me on Sunday nights, so he always had a certain interest. I don't know that he actually thought that I'm going to get into broadcasting eventually. But the key difference to me was when he called me and he said, so what do you think? Can I do this? I'm getting this opportunity to. And I said to him, if you're Troy Aikman, you'll be a star. If you try to play Troy Aikman, not so much. And he goes, what are you talking about? I knew Troy Aikman. Gordon Keith at the Ticket always used to make jokes about him, how boring he was, how he was like a robot with his answers. Because he hated the constant interview requests that he was getting, and he's horrible at accepting dumb questions. I mean, he does not respond well to dumb questions. And yet I knew over a beer on the golf course, hanging out with him, he's opinionated as hell. He's sharper than hell. He's a brilliant guy in many, many ways. And I said to him, if you beat Troy Aikman, you're going to be a star. If you try to play what you think, and I think a lot of guys make this mistake, they try to be what they perceive a broadcaster to be. What really sells is yourself. And then you just have to hope like hell that you find an audience that appreciates it. And I think that's exactly what he ended up doing. Okay, I don't think he did it in the very beginning. I think he was, like everybody, trying to find his footing a little bit. But I'm with you. I think he's the best one going right now. It's what you mentioned about John Madden earlier. He saved me because I used to go home. I don't know if you guys did this or not, but I used to go home and watch every show and critique them all the way through, and it was killing me because I think I'm horrible on TV. I mean, I really do. I'm bouncing around. My head's cocked off to the side. I sound terrible. Whatever. And I read this article where John Madden said that he stopped watching himself because he thought he too was horrible, but he knew that he was considered to be pretty good at it. And I never watched myself on TV again. People all the time would say to me, well, what'd you think? I haven't seen it. What'd you think about that commentary? I don't know. I didn't see it. Because when I do come across it, and I'll watch for a little bit, I go, oh, God, I'm horrible. But for whatever reason, it seemed to be working for me. So I stopped watching. And in the beginning, I watched every one of them. But I think Aikman, John Madden, different styles, different people. But I love listening to Aikman and Joe Buck doing a game. And I was convinced that he would be a star if he would bring that personality that I always knew he had. He didn't show it to a lot of people, but I knew it was in there. And I think he's done that. So, yeah.
We'll cover Diana Rossini's situation next time.
This is the problem with our business. There was a story today on one of my news feeds, but apparently it was just a joke that Mike Vrabel had resigned, and took a job with like some financial firm, I think, with J.P. Morgan. And so I'm looking all over trying to find out, No, it wasn't true. Somebody just wrote it up, I guess, as,
it's
well, maybe
even
he
worse.
should do this.
It's Steve.
But what a tough spot that is. I never got that. I never went there. I never did. I think it's a bigger problem for Diane Rossini than it is for Mike Vrabel, unfortunately. It's like that. Clarissa Thompson just drives me nuts. She comes out and says, I just made up those halftime reports.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what kind of an idiot would say that?
Yeah, don't ever say it.
I mean, I understand that, they all do say the same thing. But I said, not only are you exposing yourself as a fraud, you're throwing every other woman sideline reporter under the bus at the same time. But most of those, I think those halftime interviews and halftime reports, It's a waste of time. It's just stupid. It's just absolutely stupid.
And they don't even know how many players are on the field.
What the championship game is called?
What do they call that last game of the year? My God.